All right, welcome back, True Seekers. Thank you to the people always here early already in the chat. Congrats to Itachi, who won some money off the Jon Rahm pick. He supports the Patreon, which I'm very grateful for. Grateful for everyone who supports it. Again, I do realize it takes something to support yours truly. I do put out very good content, but I am also a major asshole, so I'm sure a lot of people don't support because of my personality, and that's fine. But at the same time, if you benefit from the work, I don't ask for much in return to get this kind of important information. But shout out to people like Itachi. I see Chikozi's out there, Disambiguation, Ohio. I'm not sure where Itachi's from. I know the other two are from Ohio, man. There's so many followers of this community who are from Ohio. But anyway, Itachi won a nice chunk of change, and so did Big Al, who's a regular contributor and winner from the work. And again, it's not really about making money, but I'm just reminding people. There's people who donate $5 a month, and, things come through like Jon Rahm. I always tell people with this knowledge, you don't want to gamble every day. Gambling creates anxiety, and gambling, you might be making money, but at the same time, a lot of people are putting their bodies through so much stress, they're probably just like creating future health problems. So again, it's not that I'm here to turn people into gamblers or make them want to gamble more. It's just I realize there's a world full of people who gamble, who get raped by casinos every day, and we have helped a lot of these people who are addicted to gambling, who've lost their whole lives, for the first time win at gambling. If they can make smart decisions and not be greedy, which is a major problem for a lot of gamblers, because there's guys who win a ton and then they give it all back because they get greedy. But anyway, the point is, Jon Rahm looked like Lock City to win the U.S. Open. And if you've been following what I talked about all month, and don't take me down, YouTube, for medical misinformation, because I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm simply documenting a big pattern, which I've written chapters about in my book. We're going to talk about two numbers that there are chapters about in this book that I wrote. Yours truly, this is my book, Number Games. But 56 and 222. Jon Rahm had a major 56-222 thing going on with this tournament. Those numbers relate to coronavirus. And remember, at the beginning of the month on June 5th, which can be written 5/6 like 56, Jon Rahm was leading the Memorial PGA tournament but had to drop out due to a positive COVID test. Oh, sorry, Jon. You look really healthy, and man, you're even leading the tournament. Who would have thought you were sick, but our test said you had COVID. So anyway, he had to drop out and he had to forfeit the tournament. We laughed and we said, okay, this is just another rigged 56 COVID ritual. And we said, what happened last time? Dustin Johnson went out by the 56 COVID ritual, and what did we do with him? We said, oh, look, he's going to win the Masters, all synced up with the Jesuit numbers. And what did he do? He won the Masters. And what did we call the year before to win the Masters? Tiger Woods. And who won the Masters that year? Tiger Woods. And this year, we saw from the beginning that Matsuyama had a very good chance to win the Masters. After day 2, he looked really good to win the Masters. After day 3, it looked like Lock City. And that's the beauty of golf. You could put in a bet before the tournament. Like I said, I told people before the tournament, I said Matsuyama's definitely worth a $1 bet because $1 pays $40 if he wins this year's Masters. See, that's the fun way with this knowledge. Had you bet $1 on Matsuyama, you would have made enough money to pay for 8 months of Patreon and all the information I put out throughout the year on there. You see what I mean? So I hardly charge anything. Jon Rahm, he only paid 10 to 1. So if you bet $1 on him, you made $10. But the point is, Jon Rahm, his whole ritual of going down with COVID and then winning the U.S. Open later the same month. And that's just what I said at first. I didn't even realize the U.S. Open was later this month, but I covered it that day. I was down visiting my mom, and I caught the news of Jon Rahm with the positive COVID test. I put out a video. I said, okay. I said, we saw this with Dustin Johnson already. He won the Masters. Let's look when the next big tournament is for Jon Rahm. Well, what do you know? It ended up being in the same month. And I wish I'd just done it. It would have been awesome in that video had I just done it in real time, because young Ben, the golfer in our community who's been with us, he reminded me it was the U.S. Open. He's like, Zach, the U.S. Open's going? He called me on Friday. So for the record, Friday I said, ooh, and then Saturday I said, ooh, and then, Sunday going in 3 strokes back, I said, this is just no-brainer right here, Jon Rahm. I want to show you how amazing these rituals are, because it's more than just COVID. It's also how the news of the birth of his child came during the Masters tournament. It came on 4/4 was the news The day the news broke about Jon Rahm his wife giving birth to a child during the Masters, that came on 4-4. In Gematria, Father's Day is 44. Not only did he win in the COVID ritual, he won on Father's Day 4-4 after the news of becoming a father to this child on 4-4, which was exactly 11 weeks earlier, and this was the 121st U.S. Open, which has a square root of 11. So, again, for all the people who are hating and talking shit because they had to wait forever until we were wrong about something major, which was the Lakers and Brooklyn finals this year, and I don't feel bad about that pick at all. I don't feel bad about it at all. And, again, a lot of things here, just to put things in perspective, too, for people who are dumb. If you put in a bet for the Lakers to win the finals in LeBron's 17th season, which you could have long in advance with some books, if you had put that in when we put that out, there were people who won over 20-1 odds on the Lakers winning the finals last year, as they did, as we called it. But I thought LeBron would three-peat from there. If you go back and watch that video, the three-peat part of that riddle's broken, but the rest of it is still possible. So it won't come in a three-peat, which seemed perfect. But again, just to put things, for all the haters, again, the reason I have haters is because they're dumb. Every last hater I have is a dumb person. And this is why they're dumb. And don't get offended, dumb people. I'm going to show you why you're dumb. If you had bet $100 and got 20-1 odds on the Lakers and won $2,000 off him winning that championship that year, okay, you're up $2,000, right? You get your $100 bet back and the $2,000 you won. And then like I say never get greedy. I said, when you win $2,000, don't make your betting strategy $2,000. No, you already decided your betting strategy is $100. You don't bet more than $100. Just play this knowledge, and every time you do it, just spend your limit $100, because we hit the majority of our bets. Where people get greedy and lose all their money is that they make all this money, they've never had this much money, and then they think they found the lock of the century and they bet it all because they want to make it, double it again or triple it, and then they lose it all. But again, if you just stay consistent with the knowledge like the Big Al's of the world do, that's why I always give a shout out to Big Al. Great contributor, flew out to Seattle to pound pavement when we were raising awareness about Event 201 right after the COVID pandemic was declared 2 days earlier. We went right down to Seattle and got a rally and gave out a bunch of hoodies. Big Al flew all the way up from Arizona and froze his ass off on the cold, rainy day of Seattle, Washington. But anyway, that same weekend that he came up, he bet on UFC, just a few small picks, and he made like $2,000 and some dollars. His trip to Seattle was like $200 and some dollars. He went back home on vacation. Well, not really vacation, but he came up there to pound pavement for a couple days. And for that whole weekend, Friday through Sunday, that's what it was. But that weekend, he paid for his trip up here and had more money when he went home. And again, Big Al won nice yesterday on Jon Rahm. And Big Al is a lot like, he probably has the average salary of most Americans. He's a lot like most Americans. He's into sport. He's like him and I. We're like him and I. We're both him even more so. He's just your all around American guy. He found this knowledge though and knew there was something to it. And if you ever heard Big Al, he said, I always like to gamble, but he said, like, never did I become a consistent winner and build up a gambling savings until I came across this. And again, it's because you guys, the system is rigged. Most gamblers know that. But when you have this knowledge, you can definitively prove how rigged it is. And for people, again, to understand something, you guys, the reason I thought it was going to be Nets and Lakers this year is because I know everything in sports is 56 right now, which has been huge. We went on Matsuyama in the Masters because of 56, the man born on the 56th day of the year who happens to be Asian, when no foreign Asian player had ever won the Masters before, and it's in Georgia, and it was right after the mass shooting. Supposedly the racist guy went after all the Asian massage parlors, killed a bunch of Asian people, and there became a big focus on Asian Lives Matter and racism towards Asians. We just said this is how they do it, sports and news. Let's look at the Asian golfers. We saw Matsuyama. Sunday was 45 days after his birthday. Green Jackets 45, Augusta's 45, Ritual 45. And there was so much more to it, but that's exactly what it ended up being. The thing is, with this knowledge, you can pick out where the number is, and then you have to identify who has those connections. So, for example, before the season began, we had for the Western Conference Finals, Phoenix Suns, LA Lakers. Instead, it's Phoenix Suns, LA Clippers, but the thing is, the Phoenix Suns were not expected to be in the Western Conference Finals this year. They're the surprise team of the year. They got the coach of the year, Monty Williams, who used to coach with Nate McMillan in Portland. Now Nate McMillan's led the Hawks through the playoffs to the Eastern Conference Finals. Nate McMillan's 56 years old right now. You got Milwaukee and Atlanta in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals. Think about how Hank Aaron died at the beginning of the year on January 22nd, who began with the Milwaukee Braves, who moved to Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks used to be in Milwaukee as well. You start to realize when you pay attention to sports franchises, there's connections with certain cities, like Philadelphia in the Bay Area. So many coaches and players go between Philly and the Bay Area. The Curry brothers play in Philly in the Bay Area right now. The Warriors are originally from Philly. The Oakland Athletics are originally from Philly, and just so on and so forth. And there's just, you start to realize there's rituals to what's going on. And it probably has a lot to do with history and what happened in the building of this nation and things that are beyond most of us because it's not really, there's not a great history of, but you can sort of see something's there. The Liberty Bell from Philadelphia was stationed in the Bay Area for a period of time. Why would that be? Again, all of these things from history, you start to see there's a web to what's going on. But Hank Aaron, who was the Milwaukee Atlanta athlete who died at the start of the year. Interesting. So that's your finals, Milwaukee and Atlanta. And then you got Trae Young and Devin Booker in the conference finals who made the news the day Kobe died because they each took 24 shots, Kobe's jersey number, and they combined for 81 points. And again, in Gematria, Kobe Bean Bryant is 81, right? And it was his 666th career game. Kobe Bean Bryant's 54 and 81, just like Mark of the Beast is 54 and 81. So anyhow, coming back to Jon Rahm. Look at this. You guys, I'm just going to show you part of the list, but he was leading the Memorial Tournament on June 5th, a date that can be written 5/6. And just for a historical reference, Ronald Reagan equals 56. He died on that day in history. This is just a little background. Washington, D.C., 56. Ronald Reagan, Washington, D.C. It's where the Jesuits are strong. Society of Jesus is 56. Last year in D.C. on June 5th, they spray-painted Black Lives Matter on 16th Street. Black Lives Matter, 56. Think about, in history, the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church. There's more to all of this. But the thing is, he got coronavirus, right? Coronavirus on June 5th, 5/6. And COVID vaccine, is even 56. And remember, Kobe was buried in Corona Del Mar right as coronavirus was kicking off, and Corona Del Mar's 56. And, the face of coronavirus, Anthony Fauci, 56. Mr. DC, Mr. Jesuit. And for people who think, that using what we call the 4-base ciphers, this is the most pure. This is the one that we've always talked about since the beginning as the most important, and it is. But when you look at the base ciphers, the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with the rules numerology, look at a guy like Anthony Fauci, who's Jesuit educated, who's Mr. DC, who's Mr. Coronavirus. His name is the exact same as Washington, D.C. in all these ciphers. And don't forget, he's been there since 1984, the head of NIH. Jesuit is 84. United States of America is 84. The first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, turned 84 the year of the pandemic. The Superior General, the former leader of the Jesuits, died at age 84 on May 22nd, 2020, earlier in the year. Pope Francis has the 84 birth numerology. Again, notice the ciphers to the left, the green and the blue. Jesuits 84 with the most simple. That's just the alphabetic order, A's 1 up to Z's 26. And the blue one's the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. But United States of America is 84 and what's considered that most pure cipher. And again, just such a big number. But the U.S. has had diplomatic relations with the Vatican since 1984. Anthony Fauci, the Jesuit's been the head of NIH since 1984. And the country is really getting to know Anthony Fauci for the first time during the coronavirus pandemic, right? And again, just out of those ciphers, the most important, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, coronavirus 56, Anthony Fauci. Think about how toilet paper is 56, because remember what they did at the beginning of the pandemic? They told everybody the toilet paper was going to sell out, and then it was hard to get toilet paper. Didn't even make any sense, but people didn't think about how it didn't make sense. Instead, they panicked. They heard toilet paper is going to run out, and then they went out and bought up all the toilet paper. And again, mind control is 56. And, sometimes when you think about mind control, you think about all this really complicated stuff, which is probably going on. But at the same time, that is mind control. If you can control the behavior of people just by putting stuff on TV, you control their minds. And this has been so obvious to me since I was little, that people are under this kind of mind control. And I never liked the TV for the most part as a child, because most of what I saw I didn't like. The news was always so negative, and just like you hear it and it just like creep you out. I noticed that as a child, I was like, I don't even want to be in this room with this TV playing with the news. And also just like things other people were doing, watching sports, I was like, how about we just go play the sports ourselves? Let's go get good ourselves. And, but anyway, somehow most people never really have these thoughts. They just stay sucked into the screen and believing what the screen tells them and obeying the screen. So understand, this stuff is bigger than just rigged sports, but rigged sports are all part of the show. And I think a lot of people are waking up to how golf is rigged because of Phil Mickelson's recent win at the PGA Championship. The whole field had to play back behind him. Didn't look anywhere near like a championship performance. He looked like a burnt lobster. He looked miserable as he won the thing. Anyway, the fix is in, you guys, but here's what it is. Jon Rahm. So when Ben called me up and said, hey, Zach, U.S. Open's going on, I was like, oh, man, that already started? And I said, let's look up Jon Rahm. This all happened within 30 seconds. And I said, look at that. From Jon Rahm's birthday, November 10th, to June 20th, the Sunday that the U.S. Open ended, in the month where he supposedly had COVID, I said, look at that, 222 days. And see, the reason that stands out to me is because I wrote a book about this number, right? Chapter 3 of my book is titled 222 Months Later, from 9/11 to the Coronavirus Pandemic. And here, again, let's just do it again for memory's sake. So the coronavirus pandemic was declared March 11th, 2020. And if you doubt that, look it up. That's what day it was. September 11th, the tragic day in New York with the planes and the towers. Supposedly the planes. But September 11th, 2001 to March 11th, 2020, that is, I didn't mean to click the span box, but that is from September 11th, 2001 to March 11th, 2020, it's exactly 222 months later, right? 222. So understand, Wuhan coronavirus in the most simple cipher is 222, right? He supposedly just had to step down while in first place at the Memorial Tournament. He had a 6-stroke lead, or he was shooting 6 under when he had to step down. And I think that's what he just shot at the U.S. Open, if I'm not mistaken. But 222. This is bigger than just the difference between 9/11 and the day the pandemic was declared, the 222. There's a whole bunch of layers to this. So here, we'll start here. If you write order out of chaos, notice it is 222 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. Alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Order out of chaos is a Jesuit and Masonic motto. It is a concept. It is a way to influence and have an impact. A traumatic thing happens, it gets people's attention, and then out of that, people propose solutions, and we should do this, and we should make this happen. So it's an opportunity to get the will of people behind ideas and agendas. And, like 9/11 happened in New York, right? Which is another 222. And this is the other thing that's the big trip right here. If you write out World Economic Forum, think about like World Trade Centers. World Economic Forum matters because they are the main sponsor of Event 201, the coronavirus pandemic simulation of October 18th, 2019, 1 month before the outbreak in Wuhan, China, which was November of 2019 reportedly. And also, Event 201 took place the exact same day the Military World Games began in Wuhan, China, and those Military World Games are the creation of the Jesuit order. That's why they began in Rome in 95, because the Jesuits were created to counter the 95 Theses and recognized by Rome on the day, leaving 95 days left in the year. And here, don't leave the 222 thought, but I do got to go abstract, a little bit off tangent. Remember, Fauci also equals 95. Big number with the Jesuits. when Fauci threw out the first pitch for the Yankees game in the coronavirus season last year. Garrett Cole pitched that game, and he got his 95th career win, and he was signed by the Yankees on the 95th day of his age in the offseason. Big number at the Jesuits, 95. But World Economic Forum 222, which is led by Klaus Schwab, who's also Jesuit educated. But World Economic Forum's 222, not to be confused with World Trade Center. And again, they sponsored the coronavirus pandemic simulation. They simulate a pandemic very much like what we're living out now that lasts 18 months. And realize from the day the pandemic was declared, March 11th, 2020, to September 11th, 2021 will be 18 months. The Event 201 coronavirus pandemic lasts 18 months, and by the end of it, 65 million people die worldwide. Pandemic equals 65 in the most simple cipher. It was on Melinda Gates' 65th day of her age. The vaccine went live right after Bill Gates turned 65. He declared a decade of vaccines 10 years earlier, which equals 65, and a whole lot more. But anyway, the clincher with the World Economic Forum, the 222, the number code, the Jesuits being behind all this, Donald Trump, who's a Jesuit educated, was at the World Economic Forum ran by Klaus Schwab, the Jesuit, on his 222nd day of his age, January 21st, 2020, the day we got the headline about coronavirus being confirmed in the U.S. from China. And what Trump was at the World Economic Forum to gloat about that day was how world trade would never be the same again because of his trade deal with China. And also, January 15th is the day that Trump signed off on the trade deal with China. The official story is that coronavirus was confirmed in the U.S. on January 21st, in Bill Gates' backyard. And January 15th is the day it arrived in the U.S. because that's the day the person who was confirmed positive flew back from China to Seattle. And again, there's so much more to all of this, but the point is, there's all this 2-2 stuff plus more, which I point out in the book. And since the book's been pretty much in the process of getting printed for a year now. So I finished writing this book about a year ago. There's been a lot that's happened since that's even more. Like, for example, last year in the PGA Championship, we said we know they're going to do a 2-2-2 ritual because the Super Bowl was a huge 2-2-2 ritual. Remember, the Super Bowl to start 2020, just before the pandemic was declared, was on February 2nd. And when you write it out, it's 2-2-2. And Andy Reid got his 222nd career win. And they made a big deal about the 49ers and $22.2 million in salary. I forget what the story was now, but they were just putting this 2-2-2 everywhere. So this has been going on, but let me see if I can spell his name right. Colin Morikawa. Let me see. That's how he spells it. He won the PGA Championship last year, right? And we said, look for the 2-2-2 connection. We saw he had it, plus he was Asian with the whole coronavirus Asian theme. Again, this is what they're doing, you guys. They are scripting the sports. Dustin Johnson, who won the Masters in the huge Jesuit ritual, which we called before the tournament began. And again, for people saying, where's this stuff called at? On Patreon, where I've been putting out all my sports information for about almost 3 years now. And before that, I used to put it out for free, but YouTube kept deleting the channels, so we've found that by keeping the majority of the content private on Patreon with a small subscription price, seems to do a better job of staying up. But again, Dustin Johnson, he was the first major PGA player to come down with the coronavirus. You see how his name's 56 forwards and 70 in reverse? Look at coronavirus, 5670. Look at COVID vaccine, 5670. And there's been a ton of rituals about those numbers. Kamala Harris got the COVID vaccine on TV 70 days after her 56th birthday. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's doctor, he got the vaccine 56 days after his birthday on a 70-date numerology. And notice how his name even fits in. Sanjay is 70 and Gupta is 70. It's also 65 like pandemic. And from the time of Ebola through Zika up through COVID, at the beginning, a lot of these things, Sanjay Gupta was on TV telling us to prepare for the worst. There's going to be a bad epidemic, pandemic. It could be Ebola, it could be Zika. It ended up being COVID, right? But just year after year in the buildup to the year that COVID happened, Sanjay Gupta was out really pushing, a lot of fear about potential disease and illness. And then, of course, he did that film in 2011. What's it called? Contagion, where he's talking about social distancing. Movie that came out in 2011, if you don't know this. You know how sometimes Hollywood movies, they actually have like CNN as part of the movie story, and they have the exact anchors that you see broadcast the news to you? They get them to act in the movie and on the TV. And that's what people don't get about the news. It was all told to us in the movie network, man. Again, just to show you guys this is bigger than sports. If you guys have not seen the movie network, you should watch this movie. Came out in the 70s. And Ned Beatty from that movie just died, which we just talked about. But the first actor to ever win Best Actor from the Academy Awards after dying, the word for that is posthumous. It was Peter Finch, who played Howard Beale in Network. And if you've never seen this movie, it's about, a newshead realizing that the future in news is for-profit and contrived news that makes people actually want to watch. She wants terrorism. She wants explosions. She wants essentially a Hollywood movie for the news to get people to watch and to make money off it. And the reason the movie is so important is just because of some of the scenes. Like if you're awake and you watch the movie, you'll really appreciate, and you'll probably find some parts pretty funny. But the thing is, the man who played Howard Beale, who's the biggest character in this movie, the movie's about a news anchor who goes mad. Instead of going on TV and doing the nightly news broadcast, instead he goes on a rant about how the world is bullshit. And the lady who's coming in as the head of the network realized that her news rating just jumped huge when he went on the bullshit rant. So she sees that this is the future of the news. People don't want to watch the news. They want to see this guy get on TV and rant about stuff. And so anyway, it's a super important movie, but the actor who plays the news anchor who goes mad, which is the main story, he died shortly after the movie was released. The film was released November 27th, 1976. He died January 14th, 1977, right? From the day the movie came out to the day he died was 49 days, right? Howard Beale's 49, Peter Finch is 49. And he became the first actor to win the Academy for Best Actor after dying. And somebody told me in a comment, if I can spell the word right, I think the word for that is like posthumous. Yeah, that is it. Or I'm not sure if you said, is it posthumous or posthumous? Is another word I am not good at pronouncing, but that word equals 49 as well. And he became the first actor, regardless of how you pronounce it, to win after dying. And I need to add that to the decode. But look at it. He dies 49 days after the movie comes out, right? His character name, Howard Beale, is 49 in what we call the most pure cipher. So I actually looked at this when I first started this research. I didn't know reverse gematria when I first started in 2013. I didn't realize reverse gematria was important until 2016, and then it just became undeniable because I looked at things like this. I said, okay, he died 40, and we knew about that, but Howard Beale, 49, and look at that. Lo and behold, his actor named Peter Finch, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, is 49, and notice that's the same cipher where the word for after death is also 49. But in that same cipher, Peter Finch, 49. So all throughout history, I mean, this is what we document day after day. And that's why you just realize that humanity's stupid, right? Because they'll sit and watch us nail all these things and give these very specific things, and then we're a hair off, and then they're like, oh, see, this proves it's all just a coincidence. It's like, how can you even think like that? Are you really that dumb? I guess you are. But there are so many people that are that dumb. It's like what I'm showing right now, any statistician in the world, you want to try and prove that this is a coincidence and the million other things we can dump on top of it? No way. It just shows. It's so obvious. In this same world of entertainment, you have things like the Police singing the song Murder by Numbers about how killing's the sport of the elite and it's as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3 and murder equals 83. And then, you look up like the Murder by Numbers movie poster and they're clearly coding in the poster 388 8-3 in the murder by numbers. You just think, oh, this is just a coincidence? All the rituals with these numbers that we've documented over the years, I mean, a million times. Think about how many times I've referenced this same example talking about the latest 38-83 death. Vincent Jackson this year. You know, number 83. I got to go back and look at the Vincent Jackson death, but it was a huge 38-83 ritual. Found dead in a hotel. After Tom Brady, born on 8-3, football 83, murder 83, wins the Super Bowl on the 38th day of the year, and Vincent Jackson used to play for the Buccaneers. Florida's 38 as well. Ritual in Florida. But yeah, this actor, dead 49 days after the movie comes out, wins the Academy at the 49th. I mean, come on. And then even the word for it. And you know what? From the day the movie came out to the day he won the award, it was 121 days later, right? Blood Sacrifices 121. I got to make a point about Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm, 121, 67. He just won the U.S. Open on a 67 date numerology, and it was the 121st U.S. Open, right? And those are blood sacrifice numbers. And think about last year, May 21st, NASCAR returned from its coronavirus break. Coronavirus is 142. You know what? Let me just show you this post. And shout out to Dr. Savage, because he decoded this before it happened. Dr. Savage last year, just taking this knowledge and applying it, 3 weeks in a row, he nailed the number one driver for the NASCAR race. And Rod's been killing NASCAR. He had Kyle Larson to win yesterday, even though he's a big favorite. But, you know, the Gematria community. A lot of critics say that nobody's learned from me and is having the same success. That's false. There's a lot of people in the world that have learned from me and are having great success. And I think a lot of people who've taken it even further and have kind of kept it a secret to themselves. No, there's a gentleman that just rakes on European football. A lot of you guys are always asking me to decode European football. There's a gentleman out there who went out there and did it. And he's been boasting for a long time about the small bets he makes and the huge payouts. I mean, a guy that doesn't usually bet more than $20 at a time on a single bet, but most tickets that hit, and he hits a lot, pay at least $300. That's the way he likes to bet, and I think that's a smart way to do it with this knowledge. You get really good at this, that's what you can accomplish with this knowledge. Nailing parlays, which a lot of people do in the community. And anyway, I got to see if this is here, though. NASCAR, May 21st. What I can remember off the top of my head is 521's the 98th prime. The number 98 driver won the race. The track equaled 98. His name in Gematria equals 98. I don't know NASCAR well enough, so I forget his name off the top of my head. But right before he won that race, in the headlines was how their baby child had just died. And last year we covered a golfer whose baby died 201 days from his birthday, another PGA guy who's not even that famous. And it's nuts. I mean, so many entertainers have lost children. We talked about, John Legend's and what's his wife's name? Chrissy Teigen. I believe that's it. But their most recent child's death, just all kinds of suspicious. And we know in this world of entertainment, they're working by the numbers. They're putting out songs telling you about it. Killing by a code. Gematria, the killing name. Remember the band Slipknot put out the song Gematria, the killing name. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers and words. Gematria is 38. Killing's 38. First member of the band dies at age 38. And we're always talking about how drummers so often die in bands. Drummers got that 38 Gematria. Just the same old stuff. But yeah, all throughout history, this is not an accident. From the day he died to the day he got the award, 73 days, sacrifice 73, ritual sacrifice 73. We've talked about that a ton this year. We talked about, I did this post a while back, and we pointed out the film was 201 in length. We also pointed out it came out on the day, leaving 34 days left in the year. Network equals 34 in the most pure cipher. Came out on the 331st day of the year, the 67th prime. We were talking about 67, 121, blood sacrifice. Jon Rahm wins the U.S. Open on the 67 date numerology, the 121st, and it's synced up with his child and Father's Day. Again, the news about him being a father came on April 4th, 4-4. He wins it on Father's Day, synced up with the coronavirus. Man, the more I look at that, I don't want to. You know what, though? I don't like what I'm saying right now. I wish I didn't have to talk about this. I mean, it is sick to think that this could happen, that this child, something tragic might happen to this child. I mean, they might have to be 21 years old before it happens. You know, if we're here to look at it, we might say, oh my God, you remember when Jon Rahm won the U.S. Open on Father's Day in 2021 in that huge COVID ritual? Now look, his child's dead in 2021. Or at age 21. The way they do it, they'd probably do it on the anniversary of the day he won it. Probably die at like age 21 on, what did he win? June 20th. God. You know what? The more I think about that day, sadly, this is the way it could be. Because this is the kind of stuff that we've documented in the real time when we've gone through and looked at things. We're like, look at how this is, man. But sacrifice in Jewish gematria is 206. And remember last year they set up the autonomous zone in Seattle on June 8th, the day leaving 206 days left in the year in the 206 area code. And I had a prediction. I said this will go on until June 20th. There'll probably be some death on June 20th, 20/6. They ended up reporting that a 19-year-old was shot to death on that day. First killing in the autonomous zone in Seattle, where Seattle's 19 and chaos is 19, and order out of chaos is the agenda. But, yeah, I mean, we called that out from right when that whole thing began, and that's exactly how they did it. It's just so predictable. It's so predictable. And that autonomous zone was set up next to the Jesuit University, Seattle U. I'm telling you, man, Jesuits run this whole show. But yeah, Jon Rahm, 222 days after his birthday, after coming down with the old COVID by the numbers, and we already know this is one of the biggest numbers going on with the pandemic and the sports rituals, because they've already pulled this card a few times in the horse racing, golf, the Super Bowl. So many places this has popped up, the 222. And remember, our thought at the time with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, right as COVID was starting to make the news, a little more than a month before the pandemic was declared, we were pointing out, we're like, because you might recall right after the Super Bowl, they said that the Super Bowl was a spreader event, and then there were more COVID cases documented in San Francisco and in Kansas City. We covered that at the time. But my thought was, I said, the Chiefs won. And they've always, again, I guess they're always changing history, because you find out they teach some of these younger kids different things than what they taught us 20, 30 years ago. But they used to teach us in school that we kind of committed a genocide against the Native Americans of this country, what Christopher Columbus called the Indians, with smallpox, and purposefully by putting it in clothing and blankets and giving it to them, knowing it would contaminate them. And that was the story. But, I mean, the point is we're lied to about so many things, but just having, because some people will get hung up on that. They're like, don't you know that's all bullshit? It's like, well, I don't know anything for sure, because I wasn't alive back then, and I'm relying on books and what hearsay and what other people know, just like you are. And again, that's why you never see me have like a super confident attitude about anything that's happened in this world, from spirituality to science to, I keep an open mind in all regards, but I also look at the evidence to weigh where I think I stand. But anyway, just the natives, man, and just the concept of spreading an illness, a disease to get rid of a people, and then, you got the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, and then Wuhan pandemic, and just news and sports. Is that the symbolism in it? Because again, Amazon remade the show Utopia. Amazon felt that it was appropriate to remake a British show called Utopia and release it during the pandemic, about a group of billionaires who conspire using their media that they show that they can do anything in. It is messed up. If you have not seen, if you watch, everyone should watch these shows Utopia, because they're more than shows. They are mockery. But Amazon felt the need to remake the show, and it's about how a group of billionaires conspire to use their media to dupe people into believing there's a viral outbreak and they need to get a vaccine. And the reason they want to give them the vaccine is because they need to control the population, because carbon emissions are out of control and they got to save the earth. And they need to get the Earth's population down to 500 million, and they can do it with the vaccine, which is meant to sterilize 95% of humanity, everybody except from those who have Romanian ancestry. Those are the chosen, all roads lead to Rome. In this show, the Romanian ancestry is what gets to continue to procreate. And there's something more to look. I haven't done the research that I should have on that. There's probably more to the reason they put that in that show because a lot of things are very specific. But the show shows all sorts of stuff. A billionaire that's raising children to be used in propaganda, whether they're like a mass school shooter, like a child raised to be a terrorist type, a mass killer, to a set of twins where they never let anybody know that they're twins so that they can do one with one and something completely different with the other. But I know I'm ruining this show, but again, just Amazon felt the need to remake this show in the time of the pandemic where all sorts of things end as they take over the world. While Jeff Bezos is 56 years old as he was throughout the whole pandemic. He turned 57 at the start of this year, January 12th, 2021, but he was 56 for COVID to land in his city and then, his billions to increase by whatever they did. But, yeah, they remade that show, and it's just like, wow, what a show to remake. Well, these are the themes of the times. But, in the British version, what they do is they have an adult go in and shoot up a bunch of children and adults at a school, and then with the elite's power, they take the surveillance footage and they doctor it and they just change the face on there. They change it to the face of somebody that they're after, one of their enemies. So this elite sick cabal that's, got the plan to depopulate, that are raising killers to do all sorts of stuff with, one of them they send into a school and he just starts killing everybody. But then there's a guy who's aware of their plan and he's trying to fight against their plan. And what they do is they make him the wanted criminal in the news for the school shooting that he's not responsible for. And again, that is the problem with where we are at with technology, because very evil and dishonest people control this stuff, and they probably are hinting at things that have already been done. I just tell you how many of these mass shootings don't make any sense, blamed on former football players, people that didn't show the characteristics. It's like, who's to say that that guy wasn't done away with, and he's for whatever reason, he's the wrong guy in the wrong place he's a thorn in somebody's side, For these mass shooters that they've given us in the news, I think a real investigation needs to be done into these people, their existence, and what they were about in life. What if we found a pattern of people who went to city council meetings and made a big fuss about things that were really wrong in the community? Because the city council leaders realize they're like, that guy Ted, man, he's the only one in this town that has a clue, and God, if anybody's going to wake anybody up, it probably would be Ted. Oh, didn't Jesuit Tommy say that we need to do one of those drills that's going to go down as a big tragedy in the news coming up? Huh. Maybe. Could we? What are the numbers on Ted? Would Ted fit in as a mass? Oh, he's got 44. Sorry, Ted, your number's up, buddy. And then we're reading about Ted, who was really the stink down at city council, who's sick of his town getting screwed over, and he's the only guy who still speaks out about it. And now his legacy is he's been portrayed in the news as the surprise mass shooter. People are like, well, it didn't seem like something Ted would do. But I guess it was on the news. I know they can't rig sports and know that conspiracies are not real. I just know when I hear conspiracy to automatically add theory and act that nobody's ever conspired anything against anybody, even though everybody's conspiring against everybody. It's like the word of the times. Somehow people think it's impossible. It's happening everywhere. But by the way, two of these big majors that have just been won in recent times, Phil Mickelson and Jon Rahm, they're both Arizona State Sun Devils, so there might be something to that too. Can't say anything bad about the Sun Devils. I went to Arizona State myself. I always thought the name was funny, though. I was like, why Sun Devils? I always kind of was like, why Devils? I guess just hot? I remember when I first went down to Arizona State, 9/11 hadn't quite happened. When 9/11 happened, I started to wake up to a lot more things and just how evil and sinister stuff was. And I realized how messed up. I wanted to drop out of college right then. I thought it was so stupid. Just to tell you what happened to us, after 9/11, we had our curriculum change in our English class. We just stopped everything we were doing. And now we were randomly getting assigned Middle East nations that we needed to write up these big reports on and what kind of threat they posed. And just the whole angle of it, I had a problem with the teacher. I was like, do a report from the angle of what threat they pose to us? I said, doesn't that like automatically lead with the bias? The teacher didn't like me questioning. I remember I felt like I hadn't had anything like this even happen in high school. I had it happen in elementary and middle school. But man, I was just so resistant to her new curriculum, and I ended up getting assigned Yemen. I'm supposed to write up, detailed reports on the threats posed from Yemen. Like all of a sudden, we're all supposed to get in the mindset of war with the Middle East. And because at the time I wasn't fooled by any of it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I totally believe the man in the cave did it. I mean, everybody did. I was like the only one who didn't. But the whole world was just such like a frustrating joke. And I had to go in there and write a behavior plan with her that I wasn't going to question her about her curriculum. And I just thought, like, what a load of shit that I have to do this. She's going to throw me out of her class if I don't sign a behavior plan that I won't question. It's just like, because I cared about my grades and getting marks like that and kicked out of class. And it's like, God, somehow I still finished college. And I'll tell you what, man, college was a real grind for me because I knew it was bullshit the whole way. But it was all part of the journey. Taught me that sometimes you just got to finish things that you don't like doing. Anyway, you guys. Hard work translates to a lot of things. I had a lot of big questions. I knew there was something to numbers always with this world, from, news and even seemingly sports. You learn the code, you just see what they're doing, just making a mockery of you, And yeah, so I was going to make the point also earlier about just missing on the biggest miss I've had in all the years I've done this for basketball. I've never missed both teams for being in the NBA Finals. It's never happened. This is the first time. And we did it for all of the Cavs-Warriors series, Raptors-Warriors. Last year we were just so on the Lakers to win way before Anthony Davis came and all that. Just, it was happening. 17-17. The NBA doesn't play around with 17. But, again, if you watch our video from before the year, we had Lakers versus Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals. Bucks were our backup team to Brooklyn. Just like last year, before the season began, I liked the Lakers to beat the Bucks in the finals last year. I thought it was going to be a tribute to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Abdul-Jabbar is 74. Last year was the 74th NBA season, and that's why Kobe went. Kobe 3374. If you don't know about 3374, take the time to read my book. I made the ebook free to download. You could read the first page and get the whole 3374. Just huge pattern that connects to so many things. But Kobe's 33, dead in the 74th season. Cross, Jesus, there's 74. Jesus on the cross at 33. Just so much with that. Out of the 50 states, only one sums to 74, the 33rd state. But anyway, the reason the Bucks were our backup team to the Nets, because the Nets play in the 56 building, and again, the 56th season was the Lakers and the Nets, but Bucks have the true connection to 56 through the most simple cipher. Again, you want the gematria from the left side of the cipher. These are more important. And the Phoenix Suns are the only team in the league with the full name that's 56 in the most pure cipher. So the Bucks and the Suns actually have the two best 56 connections in the NBA in terms of team names. And the finals this year begin July 8th, 2021, a date with 56 numerology. My thought was LeBron was going to become 5-6 in the finals in this season, and he would go over Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul, born 5'6". So we like the whole 56 thing there. What's funny about the Clippers is, now that Philadelphia is eliminated, I have my doubts about the Clippers. We'll see. I've been so off on the NBA playoffs. This NBA season is whooping my ass. I've never got a beat down like this before. The NBA, the riggers at the NBA, I got to give it to you, man. You have just set like landmines for me everywhere, because they're not doing what they normally do this year. It's like what they normally do is like, wrong again. It's like the magician switched up his trick, and we're like, okay, we're playing the trick that way they always play it, but now every time we pop it over, and it's not what we expect. And some of them have been frustrating because some of these teams have just had huge leads, and it looked like the game's over, and then they've come back, and we're like, what is going on, man? But anyway, the point is, the 56 thing. Again, to be a critic of what I'm showing you with this 56, I mean, all year I've been talking about 56 and everything. But remember, Bucks is 56, and Barclays Center's 56, where Game 7 was, where the Bucks won on the road. And I've always talked about how they love to shit on a home crowd. And again, my theory with why the elite love to shit on the home crowds and just give them so much sorrow is because I think that they, in a way, they feel like the home crowd deserves it. Because I think they look at people as if they're really stupid, and that's why they play these games with them, and just to see how stupid they still are and make sure that, the chemical dumbing down is still working and they are still that stupid. Because they just make everything so obvious, but people still go out and go to the rig games and buy the jerseys and wear other men's names on their back, men that don't give two fucking shits about them, who will sell out at any moment, like Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid just forgot even how to play basketball as they collapsed again and again. He couldn't even make the lay-in to win the game at the end. Just right there, he threw it over the rim. I mean, come on, man. Just the way these games end. How did the Brooklyn Nets season just end? It ended with Kevin Durant stopping his dribble with about 4 seconds on the clock when he had plenty of room to get much closer to the basket. As big and lanky as he is, he could have maybe even laid it up, draw a foul, 2 points, and a free throw. He could have done so many things, where his move where he drives in and stops and does that little fadeaway from so close that he just seems to be money in the bank with. He had time to do all that. But what's he do? Nah. Instead, he decides to pick up his dribble one hair inside the three-point line, so the longest two-pointer he could shoot, and then do a fadeaway. Just a very difficult long-distance shot, which makes zero sense. And you're talking about a man who's very good at basketball, who just, when he was in college, it didn't seem like he had to play by the script in college. And by the way, that's the other reason the NBA is a joke. Blazers end up with the number 1 pick, and Seattle ends up with the number 2 pick, the two tiny markets up in the Pacific Northwest, where the rest of the NBA is pretty much in the East Coast and in California and some in the middle of the state. But the two teams that are just way far away from everybody else get the number 1 and number 2 pick. And I predicted it before it happened. I said, it's impossible not to take Durant number 1 if you care about basketball. But I already knew the NBA was bullshit. I said, watch, the Blazers will take Odin over Durant, and it'll be a repeat of drafting Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan, as the Blazers did, because Sam Bowie was injured and a bust. Greg Oden already was known to have a leg that was 1 inch longer than the other, and all these injury problems. Again, when one leg's longer than the other, it's hard to stay healthy, because you just imagine your body's like out of calibration. Greg Oden was a big guy, but the body was a little off. And the thing about Durant was a player like you'd never seen before. Big guy. He doesn't need to handle the ball. I love how they let him carry all over the NBA. They just get rid of carries for Durant. But, just a huge, lanky guy. What do he remind you of is like a long-distance runner, but 7 feet tall. It's funny looking at like the other players on the court. They're like huffing and puffing, and you look at Durant. He normally looks like he's totally cool. Like he's like, man, I could run up and down this court all day, man. He's like a long-distance runner with a nice shot, with just such a huge wingspan. He can steal balls left and right, block shots. He's always been so skinny, but it was just so obvious that he was going to be an incredibly awesome player. Greg Oden could have been a good man if he could have or good big man if he stayed healthy, but there's just no way, if you're basketball minded, you're taking Greg Oden over Durant. There's just no way. But sure enough, the Blazers had to do it. The small market can't have Durant. Seattle's 5 times bigger than Portland. But so he got drafted by Seattle, but then right away they went to Oklahoma City. Anyway, the point I'm making is just all this stuff is such an obvious scripted bullshit joke. But think about this. The Nets, the NBA's gotten so good at making their scripts so tight. Kevin Durant was either going to pick up his 56th win of the season against the Bucks in Game 7, or he was going to pick up his 56th postseason loss. And again, Bucks is 56, and it was 263 days after his birthday, the 56th prime in the 56th building. And something I realized about the Nets as they lost to the Bucks, because again, these rituals are big. But what I realized is I already knew that DMX the rapper, he had his funeral in that Barclays Center exactly 56 days before Game 7 when Durant got his 56th loss, or he could have got his 56th win. But what I noticed is DMX, we got the news of him being in a vegetative state on April 3rd, right? That day can be written 3-4 like 34, and Bucks has that 34, and so does Rapper, right? Rapper's got the 34, so does Murder. Remember, murder's 79-34. They said he was in a vegetative state. Vegetable is 79-34. And then LL Cool J is 79. And remember, we got the news about DMX in the vegetative state 79 days after LL Cool J's birthday. On 4-3 when Goat's 43, and he ends the song 4-3-2-1 about being the greatest of all time, LL. DMX is on that song on 4-3-2-1, 4/3/21. DMX in the news as a vegetable, in a goat ritual. Now, with regards to the GOAT in Brady, what started off the year was Super Bowl 55. This is something I should have thought more about. Some things are easier to see. That's why they say hindsight's 20/20, right? But with the knowledge, you see really what they're doing. The Tampa Bay Bucks won Super Bowl 55. The NFL's headquartered out of New York. By the way, Brooklyn's won 12, and the Nets shot 1 for 12 in the fourth quarter. We all know New York's won 11. They finished with 111 points. September 11th on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year. But again, the Bucks won Super Bowl 55 in Brady's 10th Super Bowl appearance. 55 is the 10th triangular number, the 10th Fibonacci number. The Bucks made their 10th conference finals, holding the Nets to 55 wins for the season, being from the state Wisconsin, which has Gematria 55. So yeah, I know all these things, but again, and we've had a history of putting the riddles together right, and that's why we've dominated in the past. I just am not. I don't want to make excuses, but again, I was not following sports this year. I didn't watch any NBA until the playoffs, and I missed a lot of stuff that I got too cocky, man. I got too cocky. So that's a big part of the life lesson here. I thought Lakers Nets was coming in. I thought we had it the 56th NBA season, 5-6, bringing Durant over, changing to 7. It seems so right. But it's not that way. So it's like, okay, I missed the narrative, so what are they doing? I know the world of sports are connected. They do it by the numbers. Look at this. When the Bucks beat the Nets, from the Super Bowl that the Bucks won to June 19th was 133 days. Remember, football's 133. Brady won Super Bowl 53, 13-3. He played in the Super Bowl before that in Minnesota. Minnesota's 133. Minnesota's also 52. They hosted Super Bowl 52. But we always talk about this number in football. So Bucks and Bucks, right? And 55-10. Bucks 10th conference finals, hold the Nets to 55 wins. Bucks win Super Bowl 55 in Brady's 10th Super Bowl. Again, when you add 1 through 10 together, it equals 55. If you know the Fibonacci sequence, the 10th number in the sequence is 55. But what's funny is the Bucks, this 134 and 143 record, that is what they are right now. They came into that game with 133 wins. So had I even noticed that would have been tricky. I'd be like, well, they could stay right on 133. But they got the 134th win. But isn't that funny that they also came in with 133 playoff wins all time? And then also they picked up their 51st road win in the playoffs all time. Remember, Super Bowl 55 was the 51st of the modern era, and Tampa's 51. So Bucks, cross sports rituals. And this goes on all the time, you guys. This goes on all the time. Yesterday, we loved the Dodgers over the Diamondbacks, giving the Diamondbacks we had the Dodgers to sweep the series, so the Diamondbacks would get 53 losses. Look at this. Look at this. So the other thing we had for this game was a big score, the over. And the reason we liked the over is because we knew they'd be doing something with basketball. Because yesterday in basketball, it was LA versus Phoenix. In baseball, it was LA and Phoenix on the same day. And we saw that the Suns could become 5-3 versus LA for the year. Los Angeles is 53. Number that shows up all the time in LA. By the way, the Tigers won 5-3 in LA yesterday. We'll talk more about that in a second, too. That was actually a disappointing game. But we liked the big score here. And this game, if you watch this game, the score progression, the Dodgers were up 9-1 in this game, and they barely won 9-8. The Dodgers were up 9-1 after the top of the fifth inning. Okay? 9-1, 9-8. Look in the most simple cipher. And again, we talked about this before the game. Phoenix is 91. We said, watch how this game will pay tribute to the NBA teams. Phoenix 91, Clippers 98, in the most simple cipher. Doc Rivers, who coached the Clippers, but this year went to Philly, he finishes this NBA postseason on 98 wins. And I've been teaching about 98 in the NBA since 2014, my first prediction for the NBA Finals was through 98 with the Warriors and Cavs before they'd ever met in the finals. LeBron had his season high of 42. LeBron James is 42 in the most Pierce cipher. I think he did on the 57th day of the year, February 26th, if I remember right. Big championship number. And I saw from that game to the start of the NBA Finals was 98 days, and National Basketball Association's 98. Remember, game one of that finals was Warriors and Cavs, and it went to overtime 98-98. 98 days after the meeting where LeBron scored 42, and Nate Thurmond had the number 42 retired with the Warriors and Cavs. I never would have been able to figure that out if I didn't already have like some knowledge in my head about basketball and Nate Thurmond and his number with both teams, and having been studying what I was studying for a little bit. It was having all of those things that allowed me to say, this makes sense. I think this is what they're doing. And back then, when I first started, there wasn't a lot of people who followed, but I still remember all of my comments when I was talking about that in the lead up, everybody kept saying that I was wrong. It was the Chicago Bulls and Derrick Rozier, and that's what the media was selling. The media. Derrick Rose had that shoe commercial with like 98 degrees on it or something at the time. By the way, the one game where the Knicks won this year, again, the Knicks, the only game they won in the playoffs was on the 146th day of the year. Their star player right now is Julius Randle, 146, and they picked up their 187th postseason win the Knicks, 187 days from his birthday. Big Jesuit numbers. So, but yeah, just the way they do this stuff, cross-sports rituals. We've been talking about this same stuff. The year that the Cavs won on the real King James' birthday, remember that year, the Cavs, every single city that they were playing for their playoff series, in the baseball series, the Cleveland Indians were playing the exact same city, and it went on for like 3 playoff series. If I'm wrong if it wasn't 2016, it was actually 2015, but it was one of those 2 years. But every single playoff series, they were playing the same city in the MLB, and they were doing the cross-sports rituals. And I think it was 2016, though. That was the year that the Cubs beat the Indians in the World Series, which we had the Cubs winning the World Series before that season began, breaking the 108-year drought, getting 108 double stitches on a baseball, Major League 108. There's a movie, Major League, about the Cleveland Indians. 108 double stitches means 216 stitches. Cleveland's the 216 area code. And here's something to point out about today's game. Okay. This Cubs and Indians game, can you see that the Indians pitcher, Aaron Savelle, he's 10-2 for the year, right? He's 10-2 for the year. You see that? If he won today, he would be 11-2, kind of like 112. The Indians and the Cubs was the 112th World Series. And remember, mathematics is 112 and geometry is 108. They broke the 108-year drought in the 112th World Series with the sport with 108 double stitches, where all of these sports originated with secret societies that study this exact knowledge that we're talking about. All of this stuff comes from the ancient mystery religions, which so many of the secret societies are fixated on. And again, I happen to tap into something that most people at lower levels just don't know anything about, But this is knowledge used within secret societies, being put out for plain sight to show how it's being done. And again, here's what's amazing about this. You see this picture right here, Adbert Alzolay? If you go to Baseball Reference, they have every baseball player in here, and if you click on them, it will show you what their birthday is and how many days after their birthday is. So the Cubs pitcher today is pitching 112 days after his birthday, right? And he's facing an Indians pitcher that has a chance to become 11-2 when these teams met in the 112th World Series, right? Now, like I tell people, games like this, they're interesting, but they can be misleading. I told people if it was the Cubs pitcher today who was pitching 112 days after his birthday and he could become 11-2 and they beat the Indians in the 112th World Series, I said that would be a gold mine of a riddle. Sometimes we find them like that, and those are gold mines. Those come through. Today's riddle, it's tough because the Indians pitcher could hit that 11-2 and they're just paying tribute to the 112th World Series. But at the same time, riddles like this are iffy because I've seen plenty of times where the Indians pitcher who could become 11-2, he does not. And then I'm just like, well, it kind of makes sense because they were in the 112th World Series, but they lost to the Cubs. They weren't the team that won it. They were the team that lost. So that kind of stuff is iffier. But, and again, that's why you got to be careful with this knowledge. Jon Rahm, 222 days after his birthday, when we've already documented how many patterns with 222 in sports and Wuhan coronavirus, plus the Father's Day thing, and Father's Day is 44, and the news broke about him being the father on 4/4. Again, all in the same month. That's how you're like, okay, this makes too much sense. This kind of makes sense. And that's how I am too when I do the knowledge each day. Sometimes there's things that I love that don't come through, and that's why I always tell people, just be consistent, have a budget each day. You're going to win more often than not. Just keep building up. If what you're comfortable, again, I don't think anybody should gamble in a day, but if like all the money you ever like to gamble at once is $10, then that's your limit. Don't gamble more than $10 because you don't want to deal with the stress of losing. Only bet what you can afford to lose. But the thing is, if you're comfortable with experimenting with $10, if you study this knowledge and you pay attention to what we do day after day and you bet $10, you're going to see that your account is going to grow. I mean, that's what's happened with everybody in this community who's been smart and stuck with it and got better as time goes on. And that's the cool thing about it, too, is everybody has their own independent mind, and people who found this knowledge, they carve out their little niche. They realize they're like, I see. Now I get why this rotation number is so important, and this rotation number keeps being a winner for me. And then so they have the knowledge, and then they know what they're confident in, and they just follow those patterns. I always tell people, man, if you wait for a Colorado 38 riddle, again, how many times have you guys heard me say, if you wait for a Colorado 38 riddle, you're going to be a happy camper? I want to point out something here in baseball. Let me see. Where did that Rockies series begin? What day was this? Let's see. I've lost track of days. Rockies. Where did the Brewers? No. Hold on. I went back too far. I want to show you how many teams or how many straight days teams stayed on 38 wins in Colorado and all. Okay, so here's one of them. Okay. So look at this. Where does it start? Okay, right there. There too. That's probably where it starts. Yeah, that must be where it starts. Monday. Okay, so look at this. Again, I'm always talking about just Colorado and 38. All of these games were big upsets with big payouts for Colorado. Every single one of them. Remember, in the most pure cipher, Colorado is 38, and it's the 38th state in order of statehood. States are ordered 1 through 50. There's 50 U.S. states. It's the 38th state, plus it equals 38. They do so many 38 rituals with this state. And if you write out San Diego, who was in town, they're 38 in the most pure cipher. San Diego was in Colorado. San Diego was a big favorite every single night. San Diego in Game 1 stayed on a 38-win record. On Tuesday the 15th, Padres stay on 38 wins again. Upset 2 nights in a row. And again, nice riddles a lot of these nights, too, for the Rockies to win. So it was like, betting underdogs with confidence. But here, the next game. Padres lose again and stay on 38 wins, right? San Diego, Colorado, 38. Padres come in as a favorite every single game and lose all 3 games. And did it go a 4th game? Let me see. No, Padres moved on to the Reds, and then they got a win once they got back into their hometown. But then notice, the Brewers came in the next day, right? And the Brewers come into Colorado on 38 wins. And these are the kind of things we talk about all the time. Teams going in with numbers that connect to the next city. So San Diego comes in with 38 to 38 land in Colorado. Brewers come in with 38. So once again, the Brewers are a favorite. Rockies win. And then on Friday, let's see, where did it finally break? The Rockies win again on Friday. Kept them on 38. And then what we noticed about Saturday is the Brewers had the very best record in all of Major League Baseball on Saturday, and the Rockies had the very worst. And I was like, man, I said, man, if you've been winning on these Colorado 38s all these days, because a lot of them looked really good. Some of them were iffier, but just again, 38 in Colorado. All of those games were upsets in a row. And again, it's just, and there's so many other patterns to know too, but 38 in Colorado is the gift that keeps on giving. If a team comes in and it's like a basketball, like if they go into Colorado and they come in 37 and 35 for the season, they're going to probably go out with 38 and 35 record. They come in with 37 wins and if they came in 37 and 37, that'd be tricky, but say they came in with 40 wins and 37 losses, they're probably going out with that 38th loss. 38, Colorado. Patterns. Over and over. So, and truly in your face. Truly in your face. But sometimes you really got to think about what the right outcome is going to be. But by the way, in the Bucks game where they upset Brooklyn, one of the big scares, was that Durant could get his 56th postseason loss, and the other was that the coach of the Bucks could get his 40th career win in the postseason in his 75th game, because this is the 75th NBA season, and Brooklyn is 40. And if anybody wants to know what I think about the remaining NBA finals, my answer to you is you don't want to know what I want to think right now, because I am off on basketball. We're doing great in baseball. We nailed Novak Djokovic. Again, I put out the information for free at the beginning of the year about Djokovic and what he very well could accomplish this year with the Grand Slams and why he had a great shot to upset Nadal at the French Open. So again, for all the people hating on the Lakers, since then, you guys got to keep back up. I mean, we already had a super long list. If you had a whiteboard on the wall, you definitely didn't have enough space already to write on all that we've accomplished. But you'd need even more space to write down just what we've accomplished in this month. Nailed another golf tournament with big odds, and, another big major in tennis with Novak Djokovic winning. The tournament began 8 days after his birthday. 19's the 8th prime. He got his 19th major. He beat Nadal on his 21st day of his age. If he sweeps the majors this year, he gets to 21 before Federer or Nadal, who are both stuck on 20. I do think Nadal will win another French Open. I think he'll get his 14th, and that'll be the last. Nadal equals 14 in the most pure cipher, just like End. And his next French Open wins 14, so we just got to think about when that makes sense. I'm sure the year it'll make sense. It'll make a lot of sense if we know the numbers. Remember the day the Lakers got eliminated and the Blazers, who have this relationship together ever since LeBron went to the Lakers. But they both got ended on 14 date numerologies and huge 14 rituals. Lakers only scoring 14 in the first quarter. LeBron with 14 at the half. Blazers up the whole game, only scored 14 in the fourth quarter. That's what happens when you decide that, with a cushy lead, you're going to settle for just coming down, not even using the clock, and settling for 30-foot jump shots. It's like you just watch this modern-day NBA, you're like, what the fuck kind of basketball is this? Why do they even have coaches? These coaches, and how do you explain the coaches that were in the league back when they played basketball? It's like, what is going on? It's because sports are bullshit. They're all rigged. Again, I'll say it again about Trae Young. Trae Young at the end of Game 6 with Tobias Harris all over him, that's what Trae Young's NBA career would always look like if the NBA was real. Trae Young, outmatched by much bigger athletic men who'd be all over him, just like Tobias. And why couldn't Tobias Harris guard Trae Young at any point in the series except for how he did at the end of Game 6? Again, I mean, these are the kind of questions everyone who watches these sports should ask, but they don't ask. I don't know why you guys don't ask. Actually, I do know why. It's because you guys are illogical. I hear the things you say. If sports were rigged, why would they pay them so much? It's like, dude, is that a real question? Isn't your question wrong? Shouldn't it be more like if sports aren't rigged, or maybe that's I don't know what the right phrasing is, but that would be the incentive for them to be rigged. Did you see, I got to admit, I mean, I've been aware of Kevin Durant since he was in college, watching him play at Texas, but I don't think I've ever heard the man speak before. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I try not to watch these games for the most part, but I did catch Kevin Durant's post-game press conference after losing Game 7, and he looked all bugged out. He had I'm pretty sure he had a hoodie on, but he was in this posture, and he was back, and he looked like something was wrong with him. And just the way he was answering, it was just it felt like Sweet Lady was like, did somebody drug him? Is he under some kind of drug concoction? She's not saying a drug addict, but just something just seems so wrong with him. But the point is, these athletes, I've seen so many weird things over the years with so many athletes. But again, I'm sure Kevin Durant, he probably wonders if it is even worth all the money. in moments like that. To get that script and have to go out that way. And I keep talking about this, how these NBA players have to end their seasons with just like the most I mean, how did Embiid end it yesterday? Dribbling it off his knee? Nice. And the big moment that the whole season comes down to a critical turnover. Wow. You know what? I'm going to bring you back next year and pay you $50 million. But anyway, I mean, Kevin Durant, I already said it again, but I'm going to say it one more time. He settled with 4 seconds left. He picked up his dribble. That's something you don't do in basketball. You don't stop your dribble unless you need to stop your dribble. I was a guard. I know this well. I brought the ball up the court. You don't stop your dribble unless you absolutely need to stop your dribble. There was no reason for Durant to stop dribbling as soon as he got inside the three-point line and then allow himself to get D'd up and then have to do this fadeaway, low-probability shot to lose the season. Nah. Kevin Durant is a massive man that could have taken a couple more dribbles and taken some strides and probably got really close to the hoop and made somebody, contact. Plus, how many of the Milwaukee Bucks were in foul trouble anyway? Man, maybe tied up and sent it to overtime and foul out another big man. This is a way better probability. This is a basketball play. This is how you play basketball. You don't stop and do that shit shot. You just don't do that. There was no reason for it. And it's just like Donovan Mitchell. How did Donovan Mitchell end the season? He got an inbound pass with 4.5 seconds left on the shot clock from about 30 feet from the hoop, and he didn't even try to dribble to the hoop. He just pivoted around the whole time. He just stayed on his pivot foot. It was like he was doing a quick drill for how to stay on your pivot foot. But then he lunges to the side and hurls up a brick. And you're just like, wow. You absolutely had to score there or your season was over. That's how you did it? You pivoted around, and then you leaned out to the side, and then you hurled up a big brick. Again, it's the same shit every year. I'm talking about the same type of stuff every year. Why even have referees? I hate the way they call travel. It's like they let the worst travels go, and then when they call it travel, sometimes they call it because it's just too bad. But sometimes they call travel, and you're like, okay. All the stuff you're going to call, you just see how they're trying to officiate. It's like the refs are just there to make sure the rigged outcome is there. That's all NBA refs could ever serve a purpose for. They're so inconsistent, and then when they start making calls, you're like, man, this shit is making it real hard for the other team here. And then some games, they're just like, they're not going to blow the whistle at all. Sometimes they're going to blow every little thing. It's just like, how can this be the same officiating team? Last night, it was blow the whistle a million times. Today, nothing's a foul. It's like the whole thing is just a mind fuck, but then they charge you all this money and they get you all emotionally invested and people are going home depressed. You saw me down at the not the Staples Center, the Moda Center, and just talking to the zombies, man. Talking to the zombies. That's why they know they can keep doing this. Zombies will never wake up. Again, I've been listening to people for years. We've been calling golf tournaments for years. And again, just keep track, you guys. Tiger Masters before it happened. These are just recent ones because I haven't been doing a lot of sports in this period of time. I've been busy working more on Corona and writing books and stuff. But Dustin Johnson Masters before it game. Bam, bam. Just confident. We only needed one guy. We didn't even need the field. We said, these are our guys. And then Matsuyama, again, I said put a buck on him before the tournament began. Day 2, I really liked him. Day 3, I liked him even more. But if you hadn't bet him on by day 4, man, he's closing this thing out. And did I say Morikawa? I meant Matsuyama, the guy who won it. The guy who won it in the huge... I mean, if you missed our video on Matsuyama, go back and watch that video. I mean, you need to understand that this is New World Order. This stuff is huge. It's synced up with the governor. Remember how when we talked about Kobe's death, we talked about Kobe, Japan, and the Prime Minister of Japan, and how it was all perfectly synced? It was mind-blowing. Well, Matsuyama's master win was perfectly synced with, the Emperor of Japan and the Prime Minister of Japan and the Governor of Georgia and the mass shooting. Again, you guys, they do this stuff every year. It is mind-blowing, but it's like, this isn't organic. This isn't organic. This is super, this is like we're watching, it's like what it is when you think about it is, we still live in the days of kings and peasants. We are the peasants. That's why all of you guys who are peasants who talk shit over here, you guys are the ones that like being slaves. All of my critics are dumb idiots who like being slaves. Period. End of discussion. There's nothing more to say about you. You guys are the losers, the waste of the earth. Every last critic I have. Period. End of discussion. There's no one who could say otherwise. You guys are complete rejects. You hate knowledge. You hate my work ethic. You hate how many people I've helped. And now you complain that I charge a measly $5 a month if you want the additional content I put out. I put out a ton of stuff every month for free. That's why most people don't subscribe. They don't need any more content. They're overloaded with content. But for people who do support, I'm grateful for them, but the people who think it's a reason to complain because after doing this for 5 years for free every single day and proving my point a million times over as I did back then, you think because in the 6th year I began charging a modest fee for the same price that makes me a bad person? I've still put out plenty of helpful information for free. So, again, I said let's build a movement years ago. I said, let's go back and take over Detroit in 2015. I said, you can buy up the whole city for nothing. We could tear out all the yards, grow gardens, have local food, be prepared for the future world that's coming. What did I tell you guys in 2015? 2015, I said, if we don't wake up and get organized by 2020, it's going to be bad news. Who even knows if we'll be able to fight back by then? This is exactly what I said in 2015. For all the people who come here and say my work's only about sports, you guys are fucking idiots. My work was never about sports. I didn't start this with sports. I started with waking up people to the terrible shit that was coming from the people who run this nation and control its sports leagues, who are no doubt the Jesuit cabal. All roads lead to Rome. Again, they got you distracted with their rigged sports, which psychologically program their news. Because again, wow, man, he just got the COVID and then he came back and, man, he must have been playing with a chip on his shoulder because he knew he had that Memorial tournament. Yeah, okay. That can be a narrative, but no. You look at what they're doing here, you guys. These are the chosen puppets and pawns. And again, a lot of people say, well, he didn't go to a Jesuit school. Who said you had to go to the Jesuit school? It's the Jesuits who set up the rituals. The people that become part of their rituals, those are the ones who essentially go along with their schemes. Again, a lot of people have major critical thinking fallacies, and then they start posting those, and they think they've come up with some genius argument to debunk something when all they've done is said a whole bunch of nothing. But yeah, April 4th, 4-4, the news of him being a father. We were already on it with the Wuhan coronavirus, and then when we found out the Father's Day 4-4 thing, we just said, oh my God, man. 11 weeks before the 121st U.S. Open. So... here was the Jon Rahm test positive story. Call for Jon Rahm forced to withdraw from Memorial Tournament after positive COVID-19 test. You know what? I don't think I ever even took the time to decode Memorial Tournament because all I looked at was the date. Let's just see if there was even anything in there in that. Memorial Tournament has the 83, which is the 23rd prime, the 227, the 49th prime. 106 is a number at the Masters, so... maybe we're going to have to think about Jon Rahm for the Masters next year. We'll decode it when we get there, but I just, that number reminds me of a Masters number we sometimes look at. So, I'll have to look more at that Memorial Tournament. I don't remember doing that one before, but yeah, it was just the same old June 5th, 5-6 thing. John Rodriguez, his name a lot like Jesuit order. Oh, by the way, him doing this while he's 26, that matters too, because in the most pure cipher, China's 26, and virus is 26, and COVID's 26. And again, he wins it 222 days after his birthday, after his 26th birthday. Again, just all numbers that they've used all year. And with regards to him winning and Phil Mickelson, again, both Sun Devils, when Phil Mickelson won, which just couldn't have been any more obviously rigged, they said his brother, as the caddy, was a huge help. His brother's name is Tim Mickelson, 143 in the most simple cipher. He won it on the 143rd day of the year, May 23rd. And he was on the top of the leaderboard after day 3, the 142nd day of the year. Mickelson 142. Remember, he did the coronavirus tournament. He did the coronavirus tournament last year with Tiger Woods and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And NASCAR came back on the 142nd day of the year, and the NBA season was suspended on the 142nd day of the season, and then it resumed 142 days later, and so on and so forth. And that reminds me that I was going to look up something, and I forgot to. I was going to look up the NASCAR driver, Chase Briscoe. So he won the first NASCAR event last year after it returned from coronavirus on the 142nd day of the leap year, but it was on 5/21, the 98th prime. Chase Briscoe drives the 98 car, and his full name, Chase David Wayne Briscoe's 98 in the most pure cipher, and that race was at Darlington Raceway 98. So Dr. Savage 84, who has his own YouTube channel, who's active in the comments a lot of the time, he hit 3 NASCAR races in a row with this knowledge, including that one. And not small bets that paid a good amount. I mean, NASCAR can pay a lot. So, again, there's a lot of people in the community who've taken this knowledge and used their own mind and produced winning results. Some shill was just recently going on about how nobody else in the world has shown that they can use this knowledge to predict anything. And I was just like, what kind of blatant lie is that, man? I get so tired of people making these trash videos about me and talking out of their ass. There's a ton of people who've been able to say that for many years. God. Have you watched Jeremy White's channel? He's one of many people who's put out winning predictions on his channel. Shout out to Jeremy White. But this Chase Briscoe, right before he won, it was in the news that his child died. Oh, yeah, and then he was driving a Ford car, and Trump was at the Ford plant that day. But Chase Briscoe, he won the race on the heels of personal tragedy, and then it was the death of their child, if you looked it up. So, stock car driver Chase Briscoe held on to win the NASCAR Xfinity Series race just days after learning he and his wife had lost their unborn child. So, it was not born yet. It was still in the womb, but still, just like there's been in the womb, out of the womb, there's been so many stories we've covered in the world of entertainment. These people winning things, accomplishing things. Their child just died. I mean, it happens at all ages, but I'm just saying this with Jon Rahm and the Father's Day thing being synced up. And this is what we're witnessing. This is the point I'm making. These people have essentially sold their soul to be on the stage they're on. They're good at what they do, but they become part of this network. Again, it's like if you have a field of great golfers, you just have to make sure if a guy's destined to win, the rest of the field has to play behind. And you realize the guys who win more often than not are the same top guys. Those guys probably are the very best in the world. Because, again, you have to be good enough to fulfill the script, right? Not anybody. That's what a lot of you don't seem to think about either. You're like, well, if it's just athletic acting and it's scripted, why not just get anybody? Okay, do you guys ask the same type of question? Would you go out and watch a movie with just anybody acting? Would that make you want to watch? Ever turn on a Netflix movie where it seems like they just hired anybody to act the movie and you're like, God, how did this movie get made? This acting is so bad, and you just turn it off in 5 seconds. Again, a lot of you guys ask questions where I can tell that you leave it in a way like you feel like you're some smart, tough guy that just made a point. I'm like, are these people even thinking? Do they even have any critical thinking skills? Like, I know that every critic of mine doesn't really have any critical thinking skills. I'm sorry, you better go through the long list of accomplishments. If you think something's wrong here and there, disprove anything. You're some kind of dummy. Again, our list unprecedented in the time we've been doing it, But yeah, Chase Briscoe, child dies, and next thing you know, he's winning the NASCAR tournament in the right car for the right date with the right name on the right track by the numbers. You know what I mean? And Dr. Savage cashing a big ticket on this one. He did the decode in advance. And again, that's the beauty of Gematria. Things that have great odds, horse races, golf, NASCAR, all sorts of people right now in the world dominating with this knowledge. People winning with NASCAR. It's not just Dr. Savage. There's a lot of people that have done it. You'll have an advantage, though, if you know about the sport and you know about the drivers. I don't like to dabble in NASCAR much because I don't really know anything about NASCAR. I don't know the drivers. I don't know their stories. If you have some pieces of information, it really helps you connect dots. Just like I was saying with the Warriors and Cavs and Nate Thurman. Just understanding the significance of the number, the distance between the finals date, understanding the way that... Because, to me, the NASCAR season's goofy. I've never taken the time to learn about it. It's like their best race is the first race of the year, and then they have these little tournaments and point systems. I could take the time to learn about it, and maybe I should, because there's big odds there. People who do understand NASCAR doing well. Bali Go Backwards, whose favorite sport is golf, knows a lot about golf, He's taken this knowledge in the golf world to a new level. Look at how often he's showing that, man, we called. What he's typically doing is giving you 2 or 3 golfers for a tournament. Sometimes he just likes one guy, and he's hitting week after week after week. And I've proven to do the same thing. I've done it a bunch with golf in the past, and I don't even really know much about golf. But just the rituals are so number specific. If you understand what's going on, the narrative, and you can pick that kind of stuff up in the PGA by following a Jon Rahm testing positive and having to drop out of the tournament with the lead. That's just such an obvious bullshit story. When you understand what sports and news are, you say that's a story that's meant to just grab people's attention, make them think about the same thing the media wants them to think about, and the people who control the media, the utopia types. You know? They want you to think about sports and COVID, and oh my God, does he have the vaccine? Maybe if he had the vaccine, that wouldn't have happened. Next thing you know, wins the biggest tournament of his career in the perfect Wuhan coronavirus ritual. So here's what I want to do. It is a little after 3 here, and I don't want to stay on too long. I do want to pound some pavement today, but again, who I would like to call in here are the trolls. Because, here, you know what? Before I open up the line, here, let's just, what I can remember off the top of my head. Okay. For everyone who's so mad about the LA-Brooklyn finals not coming through, when realized there were things to look at around that. Our backup team was the Bucks. We had the Suns in the Western Conference Finals, all this before the season began. But all the people are so mad about that and think Gematria is somehow not true because we missed on this after nailing the NBA ritual just how many years right in a row? A lot of years. A lot of years. But again, baseball. We'll start with baseball. My first ever call in baseball was spring training of the 111th World Series. New York is 111 in the most simple cipher. Brooklyn just ended their season with 111 points, going 1 for 12 in overtime when Brooklyn's 112. But we had the Mets, not the Yankees. We had the New York Mets in the World Series from spring training. Huge odds. Because the Mets paid something like, depending on what book you had them, but they were between 40-1 and 60-1 to be in the World Series, to win the NL pennant. The Mets were huge long shots. Back then, people used to I didn't hardly have any following back then. But when they deleted my first channel, a lot more people had seen those videos because they'd found the work and gone back. But when I was first starting this, I can't remember how many subscribers I had in 2014, but it probably wasn't more than, 2015. I can't remember. Thousands of people, but not a lot. But the majority of people that commented on that Mets prediction, it was just comments like, this is so stupid. You got to be kidding me. Take your meds. And it's like, the points I was making were interesting because I was showing the relevance of New York and 111 and what I documented, things like September 11th happening on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year, and what the meaning of that could be in terms of ritual, like why do 111? The empire state, the state that sets the tone for the one empire. You hear about the New World Order, the One World Order. Anyway, World Trade Centers. But, okay, New York Mets in the World Series in spring training. Huge odds. So let's just say that you found that and you bet $10, right? And you never bet more than $10. If you would have bet on that, you would have made $400. You would have paid for your next 40 $10 bets, right? So we have to think about this in a logical way. And again, the way I teach is I say, don't be greedy with this knowledge. You don't need to gamble every day. Just wait till there's some really great riddles. Make those the day. Still try to work at it each day and understand more and more, because that's what this is too. This is knowledge and understanding and trying to break something that's being done. We don't know everything about it, but we know a lot about it. But okay, 112th World Series. What did we do there? Not only did we say the Cubs would win the World Series in spring training, which they did. By the way, I wasn't sure that the Mets were going to win the World Series. I just liked them to be there. 111. And there was some other stuff to it through Matt Harvey. It was all through Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey was my riddle for 2 World Series in the time we've been doing it. But 112th World Series, we said Cubs are breaking the 108-year drought, 108 double stitches. Before the season began, I thought they were going to beat Houston because Houston equals 112. When Houston got eliminated in the regular season, I said, here's what it is. I said it's Cubs over the Indians in Game 7. We'd already been on the Game 7 thing. The reason why is because Game 7 was 11/2, too perfect for the 112th World Series. Mathematics 112, geometry 108, 108 double stitches on the baseball. This is what we were talking about all year. 108 stories in the tallest building in Chicago. So before the postseason began, we had Cubs over Indians in Game 7. That is a big payout. You do a little $10 bet on that, that's paying at least 40-1. Okay? Next year, 113th World Series. It was a struggle. But we had the right group of teams at the beginning of the year where we nailed it, though. At the beginning, or it was at the end of August, Houston flooded, LA was burning. These were two of our teams in our potential list to be in this World Series. And I said, this is it. I said, Astros will beat Dodgers. Water puts out fire. Houston's underwater. LA's burning. You just saw. I showed the clip on the time what they did on Fox News, and it was a good thing I caught it. But there was also something I probably would have had the same pick even without it. But the news clip that I caught really helped me. They interviewed a woman in Houston after the flooding of Harvey on Fox News, and they asked her how she felt that she was the lucky house in the neighborhood that didn't flood because they showed her block. Her house was up on a little bit of a rise. The rest of the block wasn't. So her block was underwater, but her house was just high enough to not be underwater. And they asked her how she felt, and her response was, and she put her arms out, I felt like I won the World Series. And I showed that to people. I said, come on, you guys. I said, look at this. Look at this news clip. And then I think it was right after that, then we realized that the first scheduled game back in Houston was Matt Harvey on the mound in Houston as the visiting team after the flooding of Harvey exactly 52 days before the World Series. Here, there's even again, I'll remind people, there's an article that was written making fun of me about this. Vice News, Zachary K. Hubbard. Let's see. I'm Zachary K. Hubbard. Here, November 20th, 2017. Wacko YouTuber approves World Series rigged. He quotes me in here, you know. He's making fun of how I wrote about how Harvey pitched in Houston after Harvey 52 days before the start of the World Series. And he quotes me. He says, the reason that matters is because the word flood in Gematria equals 52. Houston flooded on a date with 52 numerology on August 27th, which was the 239th day of the year, which is the 52nd prime number. It was also 27 years after the death of Stevie Ray Vaughan, whose best-selling album was Texas Flood. But again, I always teach about how flood, earth, hurricane, they all equal 52. And weather warfare was first admitted to in 52. Other people have commented that Enlil equals 52, who's the Babylonian god of flooding. And remember last year, we put out all the dates for hurricanes to likely make landfall. On every single date we put out, which was a big long list, a hurricane made landfall on every single day except for one. And on the one day it didn't make landfall, that was the day a hurricane formed in the ocean. But just year after year, the same stuff with weather warfare in 52. We've already circled a number of dates this year for weather warfare and unexpected flooding. And, you know, how many days already this year we've documented the same thing? It's just the same stuff keeps going on, you guys. And for you to think this is all a coincidence, it just shows that there's something wrong in your mind, honestly. There's something wrong in your mind. Don't call me the conspiracy theorist and the mentally ill one, because that's what this weak-ass society likes to do. No, look in the mirror and admit you're a weak fucking person who can't handle the fucking truth. Weather warfare was admitted to in 52 by this code or by this goon of fucking assholes who do everything by the numbers. And we're documenting year after year and calling out. Not to mention, we told Texas to watch out for Harvey to flood on August 27th, like 10 days in advance when the news of Harvey started. We said, man, this is the 52 date and it's the 239th day of the year, the 52nd prime. That's the day Texas went underwater. And don't forget what they were doing in sports. As the rain was coming down that night before, Mayweather was fighting Conor McGregor, right? Floyd Mayweather. Then you get in the crazy weather. And they said Steve Harvey. They made a point how Steve Harvey had the best seat at the fight. TMZ made sure everybody knew about that. They talked about it in the news. There was a lot of conversation about Steve Harvey at the fight as Harvey was flooding Texas. All this shit is ritual. And again, some people don't think it's the military. Some people think just like Native Americans back in the day used to do a rain dance, that some kind of occultists have this superpower to make storms happen. I don't want to argue about what it is that they're doing. The point is it's being done, and people better wake up to it. People better wake up to the fact that our government operates by this code every single day. Your sports leagues are rigged by this code. Your Bible's etched out in this code. Or just be a loser who can't handle the truth, who can't make a rational argument, who has no critical thinking skills. Since this article was written when? How many times have I documented the 52 thing? This article will turn 4 years old later this year. And remember, this wasn't the first article written about the work. The first one was USA Today going after me for Super Bowl 50. We'll talk about the NFL in a moment. But we're not done with baseball yet. So 113th World Series, we nailed it at the end of August. It's not as good as calling it before the season began. But hey, if you got the World Series right on with both teams before the postseason begins, that's big odds, okay? Just imagine you're making $10 bets on these things. You are getting up. How about the 114th World Series? This was another one where we could not get it from the beginning of the year, but we nailed it so hard. We nailed it so hard, this one. There was a gentleman who won over $300,000 because of this riddle, a real fact. He was the rich getting richer. He didn't exactly need it, but he took the knowledge and he made a lot off it. We mapped it out. We already knew. We knew the Super Bowl before we knew the World Series. We knew the Super Bowl was going to be the Patriots over the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl 53. That was the 99th NFL season. And Tom Brady was 41 years old. And Super Bowl's 41. And LA's 41. And he just lost to the Eagles the year before, who scored 41. But anyway, Tom Brady, we saw that in the NFL's 99th season, which was Super Bowl 53, we saw that Game 5 of the World Series was 99 days before the Super Bowl, and we said, there it is. Boston beats LA in Game 5, 4-1. Then Brady from Boston beats LA at age 41 in the Super Bowl. There was so much for that 99 thing because the Patriots came into that season with 523 wins. That's the 99th prime number, okay? The 99th prime number. Aaron Donald was the big star on the Rams. Aaron Donald in the most simple cipher equals 99. He wears number 99. Remember how he had to hold out that season? His holdout ended 99 days after his birthday. It's just all bullshit. Just all numerical ritual for the rigged season. And that's why we knew. We're like, look at that. Game 5, 4-1. Boston, LA. That year, ESPN was helping us too because all year they kept talking about what's the better sports city, Boston or LA. Again, they telegraphed some of this stuff. So that was the 114th World Series. 115th World Series. We had to wait until just before the postseason before we understood the World Series. So anyway, realize on these little $10 bets that pay big things, you've made 400 here, 400 here, another 400 here, 300 here, 250 here. Now, there's been some other bets where we said you should cover along the way. Like, okay, put it down for this team. Let's just say in that time there were 8 other hedge bets, right? And they're all $10 bets as well. Now, you've hedged $80, but you've won all these several $100 bets. So realize when you hear my trolls out there going, yeah, Zach was on that team, but at the end he said you might want to do this just in case to cover yourself. So see his prediction. It's like, no, I'm just teaching smart strategy. If you're already up and you see the only way you can't come out ahead is if this happens right here, then you should cover that. That's called smart strategy. So again, when you hear my critics and the people talking shit, they're dumb people. All of my critics are in one group. Idiots, morons, losers. End of discussion. There's nothing else you could say about the critics. They haven't shown how the world's been rigged. No, again, I don't mean to be super arrogant, but nobody's come along and proven how rigged the world is and called more shit. Because we haven't just been calling sports. We've been calling the day floods are going to happen, the day storms are going to land, the day news stories are going to happen, why these days are going to be full of mass shootings. All this stuff consistently. When the Vegas shooting happened, we said circle that weekend all year. We said that's going to be the biggest false flag in the U.S. since 9/11. We said it all year, and it happened. Vegas was easily the mass shooting in Vegas. Again, has there been a bigger attack in the U.S. since 9/11? There has not. And we had that circled all year from understanding this knowledge. And again, the reason people need to understand what we understand is because it proves who's running the show and who we need to rebel against and stop complying with. And think about this. I've been preaching this for years. What are all of the critic type of people doing right now? Going along with the news still, giving up their rights and liberties, putting a muzzle on their face, getting injected by Pfizer, the most sued company in the history of the world for wrongful death and injury with medicine, who has has no liability for anything that go wrong with this rushed out medicine. This is the stuff going on right now with the sheep, the same kind of idiots who for years have told me that, oh, there's no conspiracies and our government's looking out for us. I mean, look at them now. They're dragging us all to hell. And then for the other group of you guys who don't care about anything and just watch rigged sports games like that's all that matters, while you haven't been paying attention to reality, we've been getting fucked up the ass as citizens. And again, it looks like a lot of people like it, honestly. I guess that shouldn't come as a surprise based on where we are with all the programming. But, okay. Baseball. We got to go back down the list of accomplishments. We're not even done yet. 115th World Series. Again, we found out the most... Let me just put up, again, the riddle that just solved it all for us. I have to go back to my old website, the one that's maxed out. But, let's see. Indians, Nationals, 149, 322. Let's see. Yeah, this is it. Okay. You see this right here? The Nationals manager came into a game against the Indians, his 322nd career game, the number of Skull and Bones, 322, on 149 losses. And Skull and Bones is 149, and these numbers go together a lot. King Supers equals 149, shot up supposedly on 322. And I had a whole channel taken down for hate speech for showing the video clip that was on YouTube of the shooting and pointing out what was wrong with it, and somehow that counted as hate speech. It's like, oh, hate speech is pointing out obvious truth now. Amazing. But again, this is why so much of the work is gone, just getting deleted for bullshit reasons. And we know the reason I'm getting deleted is because they don't want all this evidence up of all these right calls over the years. That's what's so frustrating about all the trolls. I could put all the trolls to rest by just going through the videos. But anyway, Skull and Bones. We already knew they'd been doing some big Skull and Bones stuff with the Rangers and Astros in tribute to Bush's death. HW used to be a part of the Rangers. And then they did it with the Nationals in D.C., and there's just so much to this thing right here. It was all a tribute to Prescott Bush, the father of HW, and the legend of him stealing Geronimo's skull. That this was, again, you guys, from the death of Geronimo to the day they did this ritual, which is the big Jesuit day, the day the Jesuits were recognized by Rome, but from Geronimo's death to this ritual with the Nationals and Indians was 223 days later, which is the 48th prime number in Cleveland's 48, and it had 48-date numerology, and the Nationals got their 48th home win in that game. And then the next day had 49-date numerology, they got their 49th win. The next day after that had 50-date numerology, they got their 50th win, and with that, they made it into the playoffs, and they went on to win the World Series. But Washington, you see how it's 49 and 50 as well. They got their 48th win on the 48 date, the 49th win on the 49 date, the 50th win on the 50 date, but that 48th win was over Cleveland, the Indians, 223 days after Geronimo's death, the 48th prime in a Skull and Bones ritual, where that's a Skull and Bones legend, that HW's father stole Geronimo's skull. So we had this mapped out before this game was played. We knew this was the game of the day, and not only that, but we said, you know what? We got a Skull and Bones ritual in the National League with the Nationals, and a big one with the Astros and Rangers. I said, that looks like the World Series to me, Nationals and Astros. And we said, look at this. If the Nationals win this many games, they'll have 105 wins. You see how Nationals is 105? When the Nationals won the World Series in Game 7, they got their 105th win of the season. You see the 138? Watch what happens when I write out Donald Trump, 138. Federal, 138. The manager of the team, Dave Martinez, 138. The Nationals won 138 days after Trump's birthday. And remember, Trump made all that noise because he hired the Nationals announcer to do the inauguration instead of the man who'd done it for all those decades. But you see how Nationals is also 57? Just like World Series. And in Game 7, the Astros picked up their 57th postseason loss all time in that game. So it was, and the other thing with the Nationals 33 and the most pure cipher, it was the first World Series in Washington, D.C. since 1933. But again, this is why we know these are the base ciphers. It gave us such confidence. We had the Nationals beating the Astros, but then when the World Series came around and when the Astros came into the series, we're like, look at that, even more confirmation. Now the Astros can get their 57th postseason loss if they pick up 4 losses against the Nationals. And you might recall the way that series went. The Nationals won the first 2 games. The media said the Astros were dead. The Astros won the next 3 games, and they said the Nationals were dead. And the Nationals got huge odds again to come back from down 3-2. And we said, you got to take that. We know they're picking up that 57th loss, and the Nationals are getting the 105th win. And the Nationals won 2 games on the road in Houston and won the World Series and depressed the Houston crowd. They love to torment these home crowds. And so that was the 115th World Series. And then the last World Series was the 116th. We had the Dodgers winning the World Series before the season began. So that's what we've done in baseball. Haven't been right from the start of every season. I only had a call for one team for 111th. It made it there. 112th, I had the call for them to win it. They did it. They got there and won it. 113th, we had to wait until end of August. 114th, it was probably around mid-July when we saw the alignment with the 99 days and the Super Bowl. It was about mid-July that we called Boston over LA, 4-1 in Game 5, 99 days before the Super Bowl to conclude the 99th season with Brady winning at 41. 150. That was the 114th World Series. 115th, we had to call it right before the postseason began, but still, it was lucrative because when we called it, the Nationals weren't even quite into the postseason yet. So big odds for that Nationals-Astros Game 7. And again, 116th we had before the season began. But to criticize that kind of accomplishment and just like there's been so many specifics in there too, just calls with players in the game and anyway, that's baseball. Let's do football. So what year was it? It was like 2014. I was new at this work. And I'd been studying it for almost a year, and it was when I still had my weed business because it hadn't quite been destroyed. But I saw that this was the first ever sports pick I made because I was looking at football with this new Gematria lens like I never had before. And they did this crazy thing with a Ravens and a Colts game. And I forget what it was, but I was like, God. I mean, Baltimore used to be the Colts. This crazy ritual with these games. Are they telling us something with these teams? Could they be in the Super Bowl? So some people say that was my first ever Super Bowl pick. But again, I still remember the situation. I didn't have a lot of information. I knew there was something up with that game. The video was filmed in the grow. I was like doing the plants that day. Quick video, quick upload, quick thought. I mean, there wasn't a lot behind that prediction. But I just knew it was brand new looking at football early in the season. And like, what is this about? Does this mean something? So there was something with the Lions, too, and we thought the Lions would make the playoffs, and they did make it to the playoffs. All those teams went to the playoffs, if I remember right. The Lions definitely did. I still remember what they did with the Lions in the playoff game that year. The game was in Dallas. The Lions were beating Dallas, and then they came back from the Dodge commercial. If you remember, they were doing that Dodge commercial for a while where they were showing the old Dodge symbol, which is the Seal of Solomon, or also known as the Star of David. But they came back from that Dodge commercial, and then they did the Dallas sun. They put like some kind of computer effect over it because it made the sun like a Star of David, a 6-pointed star. And from that point on, the Lone Star State, Dallas, with the star on their helmet, just dominated the game and just some ridiculous calls. I was like, look at this crap. But so, okay, that was that year. And the year of Super Bowl 49, that might have been the same season that was the year of Super Bowl 49. But that year, people asked me to predict the Super Bowl, and I showed why it looked good for the Seahawks to beat the Broncos. And I thought it was going to be a convincing beatdown, and it was. And that wasn't a call before the season, but that was when I was newer to Gematria, and people said, oh, do the Super Bowl and see what that is. Because, again, when I first started this work, I did some sports stuff, but I was mostly just focused on the news and politics and getting people to see through the bullshit. But I realized sports were a big part of it, and then over time we worked it more and more in. But the next year, Super Bowl 50, that year we made the call for Broncos to beat the Carolina Panthers in October. Jeremy White's been here ever since. He won a bunch of money off that. But we said all the reasons the Broncos would beat the Carolina Panthers, why Von Miller would be the MVP, why it would be a tribute to Super Bowl 24, why there'd be some kind of Black Panther symbolism. All of that stuff happened. The Broncos won with 24 points. Beyonce got criticized as dressing up as a Black Panther. Von Miller was the MVP. It was the right outcome. And my dad before that was always like, oh, but since then he's always had some respect in his voice for the work, even though he's still kind of a skeptic, because he thought there was no way Peyton Manning could win that year because he was washed up, and he was. And I said, it doesn't matter when it's all rigged. And I said, that's why Von Miller will be the MVP, because it'll be some kind of defensive game. Cam Newton will probably forget how to play football. Remember when Cam Newton dropped the ball on his shoelaces and he just looked down at it, he didn't even try to pick it up? Von Miller with the sack fumble on his way to the MVP. And don't forget, Von Miller and Cam Newton were drafted right next to each other in the same draft, which was also with Colin Kaepernick, where the Broncos and 49ers traded picks. And then Colin Kaepernick, getting all the negative press at the time. All this stuff is related script. It's like those guys came in as that class of actors, and those were their scripts. Colin Kaepernick's going to become the great civil rights leader of the NFL, and, Cam Newton is going to get humiliated by Peyton Manning. That's what happens when they make a statue of you while you're alive, as is the case with Cam Newton, who has one at his school, Clemson. But, okay, Super Bowl 50, and again, USA Today took notice. USA Today, it's too bad that, this used to be like a fancier article on their page with the videos linked, but because those channels got deleted, they put it on this not as fancy page that no longer has the videos linked that have since been deleted by YouTube. But again, just this article was written, a man calling himself Zachary K. Hubbard, if that is his real name, which it is. And by the way, the reason I had the middle initial of my name is because I used the same email account that I used all through college that I launched my first YouTube channel with, because I didn't realize how carried away I was going to get with YouTube when I first started. But my email was always Zachary K. Hubbard because I started it in college, and what was funny is while I was at Arizona State, there was another Zachary Hubbard there. So from that point on, I began putting middle initial in a lot of things that I did. Email accounts, made-up accounts, because I was like, wow, there's even another Zachary Hubbard at this very university. First time I ever met another Zachary Hubbard. But again, some are like, oh, Zachary K. Hubbard adds up to this. It wasn't ever the intention. It was just the way I did my Gmail account that I started while I was in college. Okay, but Super Bowl 51. Super Bowl 51 I did not have right when the season began. But the first prediction I put out for that season before even the Super Bowl, the first thing I saw was how the Super Bowl was on a 44-date numerology. It was the first of a series of years that it ended up on that. But I knew that the sports teams that loved 44 were from Georgia and Wisconsin, which are both 44 in the most pure cipher. And the other thing I saw in the Falcons was the Super Bowl was on 2/5. So my very first prediction for that year was for the NFC Championship, Packers and Falcons. And I was torn on who would win that, but I did point out that if it was the Falcons, they had the 2-5 connection like the date of the Super Bowl. Well, what happened was like a month after that, I forget what his name is, the white running back for the Giants died right before the Hall of Fame game. I cannot think of his name right now. But then I thought, man, Giants got that 25 connection too. And in the time I was studying this early on, they were doing the most incredible rituals with Andrew Luck. And in my mind, I was expecting them to give Andrew Luck a bone because if you remember, Andrew Luck when he was in college, they were saying he was the greatest college quarterback ever. He did some incredible things when he came in the NFL. So in my mind, I had this bias that Andrew Luck was going to get something. But what I noticed is the first year where I was documenting the things I was documenting with the Colts, I saw that they were all ultimately playing into the Patriots. And I did some research on Robert Kraft, and if I remember right, Robert Kraft has some executive experience with the Colts somewhere along. There's something with Robert Kraft and the Colts and the Patriots. There's still things I'm still trying to figure out. But anyway, I thought before that season began that it was either going to be Colts and Packers, because also the thing I was talking about is the coach of the Colts and the Packers who just died, Lindy Maury. So I was like, Colts, Packers maybe because of him, or Falcons got the 44 and the 25. But I was like, NFC Championship looks like Packers, Falcons. And speaking of Georgia and Wisconsin, I guess they have the baseball history too, just the Milwaukee Brewers, or not the Brewers, but the Braves used to be in Milwaukee back when Hank Aaron was first with the team. And The Hawks used to be in Milwaukee. But anyway, the death of the Giants player made me think because back then I was still newer, so I didn't have as much experience. And then I've noticed over time, deaths don't mean championships at all, but deaths, they are paying tribute to certain numbers. And that season had a lot to do with 25. They moved the touchback to 25 yards and ended up being a 25-point comeback on 2/5 over the Falcons. What's funny is Sweet Lady and I went down and we put down futures for that Super Bowl. And there was a really tall gentleman, and the whole time I felt like I'd seen him somewhere. Like either was he an NBA player, but he was a really nice, spoken man, soft-spoken from Atlanta. And I was talking to him in line while we were putting in the picks, and it's funny, he was from Atlanta, right? And I just, in hindsight, I was like, God, that was like a sign from the universe. Zach, Atlanta is one of your teams. Put more on Atlanta. You know what I mean? In hindsight, I look at that, I'm like, why didn't I think more about that? Like Actually, you know what? I'm thinking back more and I remember something now. Here's how the universe messes with you. This is a true story. Choose to believe it or not. When we came through the door of that casino, when we were putting in these futures, the Giants were on, and it wasn't even football season. It was March. But whatever the highlight reel as we came through the casino, the Giants were up on the screen, and I was like, man, there's the Giants. So I felt like that was a sign, and then I'm standing next to the guy from Atlanta. But my teams before the season that I expected to be there were Colts, possibly the Giants, Falcons, maybe even Packers. But what happened in week one? See, when week one happened, because this is all before the season, right? When week one happened, the Patriots did the biggest thing over the Cardinals. Jimmy Garoppolo was in. The Patriots were 13.5-point underdogs, and we loved the Patriots that night to win. Jimmy Garoppolo had the best ritual. That happened, and I can't remember it all, but Phoenix is on the 112th Meridian, which is Super Bowl, and there was something big in that game, and then I think it was either the next week or the week after that, the Patriots had a big ritual with the Texans on primetime, and that's where the Super Bowl was that year. So I was telling everybody in the community, I was like, listen, if you took my word on the Colts, I said, there's something about the Colts doing things, and it actually ended up going through the Patriots. It ended up being the Patriots that year. That was the year of Patriots and Falcons. And when that Super Bowl was set, we said Patriots will definitely win this. It's all about 2-5, 5-2. Brady and Belichick are becoming 5-2 over the Falcons, 25. They end up having the 25-point comeback. And Bill Belichick equals 97. It was the 97th season, which is the 25th prime. And they just paid tribute to that in the basketball series they did. With the comebacks, the crazy comebacks in Atlanta and Philadelphia began 97 days from Trae Young's birthday on a 25-date numerology, and he scored 25 points in that game. We talked about that before the game was even played. We talked about comeback in 26, and the Patriots swinging the game by 26 points, and we revisited that the day Atlanta ended up coming back from 26 over Philly in the playoffs. And I didn't see that was going to happen, but I'm like, how weird is it that we're talking about these things, and this is what's happening later in the night? And sometimes I'm like, man, maybe that's the power of words. And if you put it out to a community strong enough and everyone focus, is it an organic matrix? Somehow are we manipulating outcomes? I mean, being open-minded, I'd say anything's possible. But to me, it looks like it's being rigged and contrived, especially when you see Donovan Mitchell pivoting around and throwing up a leaning brick to end the season. It's just like, what? But okay. So that year, not our best work that year, but we were right about the Super Bowl. And then the next year, we came back and helped people make a fortune because we said in week 3, the Super Bowl 52, was going to be the Patriots and the Eagles. And we said that because of Donald Trump, who took on the protesters of the flag on 23/9, like how the flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philadelphia. 239 is the 52nd prime. President's 52. Trump has the same birthday as the flag. That was the year of Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota. Minnesota equals 52. And that year, from that week on, we said, watch. The Eagles will begin the year 10-1. And we followed some nice upsets with the Eagles. There was one that paid 6.5 to 1. That means if you bet 100, it paid $6.50. But the Eagles did start 10-1, and we said they would start 10-1 because Philadelphia, in the most simple cipher, is 101, which is the 26th prime, and flag is 26, and it was all about the flag. Now, in all the years I've done this, I've only called the outcome of the Super Bowl wrong once, and it was this year. We had the right teams in it, and we were able to dominate through the playoffs. We had the right teams in it from week 3. And what I thought is Brady was going to become 6-2 in Super Bowls, and I had a good reason to think that. I did put out a warning for the Eagles, though. My warning for the Eagles was if the Eagles win, Zach Ertz will score the winning touchdown. Number 86, 86 days after his birthday, because the national anthem was adopted 86 years earlier. And that is what happened. Zach Ertz scored the winning touchdown. We saw that possible narrative because it was all about the flag and Phillies from the flag. But I thought Brady was going to become 6-2 because not only does Minneapolis equal 62, that man, we just kept documenting it throughout the year. All the 62 stuff, week after week after week after week. And if you go back and look at the passing leader that year, I believe Phillip Rivers was the number 2 passer that year. Tom Brady was number 1. Whoever was number 2 was 62 yards behind Tom Brady. And I'm always saying how they got these scripted rituals down to the box score stats. So I was thinking the strongest ritual was Brady becoming 6-2 in Minneapolis after a year of a bunch of 62 crap. Now, what I realized in that is I said, okay, I saw that the Eagles had a narrative, and what they were signaling all year is that, yes, Brady was going to be in Minneapolis. And by the way, you guys, I put out the video for Brady to be in Minneapolis the day after Super Bowl 51 for free back then, for free. I said Brady will be back in Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis because go back and look at his Super Bowl 51 box score. Go back and see how many pass attempts he had. Here, I'll show you. He had 62, and there were 93 offensive plays. Look at this. Super Bowl 51 box score. Super Bowl 51 is the 25-point comeback over the Falcons. Watch this, 62 pass attempts. Can you see Tom Brady's stats? He was 43 for 62. God, is that LV's 34? He got his 34th playoff win at age 43. Was that even part of it in the box score? I never noticed that before. But 62 points in the Super Bowl, right? 62 pass attempts. That is so many pass attempts. Come on, man. Normal NFL games like 30-some pass attempts, sometimes less. But Minneapolis is 62, right? And notice when you write out Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's 93 in the most pure cipher, and it's on the 93rd meridian. And that's how many offensive plays the Patriots ran. They had 62 pass and 31 rushes. Hold on. I know this says 25 rushes. If you go back and search, it'll show that they ran 93 offensive plays in this game. So how could that figure as like an end-around play? Unless ESPN was, but at the time I was showing it. They definitely put up that they ran 93 plays, and then 62 were passing. Punt returns? Would those count? Somehow ESPN had that up there. And sometimes I have noticed, though, where they'll put up a number and then I go check on my stat indexes and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what the stat index says. I think sometimes ESPN forces numbers. But 93 is a big number in Minneapolis. But again, we put that out the day after the Super Bowl. We said, Brady, 62, he's going back to Minneapolis. You know? Okay, so 50, 51, 52, 53. Again, 53 we had before the season began, dead on both teams. Patriots over Los Angeles. Those are your two 53 teams in the league. Patriots, 53. Los Angeles, 53. And Super Bowl 54, that was, okay, we had a bunch of hedges on this season, but if you did what I did, if you did what I advised to do over the course of the season, you did very well. Because in week 3, we saw that Chiefs and 49ers was a potential Super Bowl matchup. It had a real narrative. I said I would put in a bet for in week 3. Now, I'm not going to give myself a lot of credit because we had Chiefs versus Packers. We had Chiefs versus teams I even forget about. We probably had 5 possible scenarios that year. But we knew the Chiefs in the AFC. We weren't doubting the Chiefs, but we're like, which team are they going to play? In hindsight, I was really mad at myself. I was like, God, I feel like we should have had this one before the season began. Because Joe Montana's 54, and that's what Super Bowl 54 was. His 49ers versus Chiefs. So I felt like that was an easy one where I kind of dropped the ball. I should have had more confidence about it. The Chiefs and the Niners had the craziest rituals in week 3. It was just, they both paid tribute to 50, and Super Bowl 54 was the 50th of the modern era. San Francisco's 50 in the most pure cipher, like how they were once 5-0 in Super Bowls. You see how 49ers is 52, like they're now 5-2? But Chiefs is also 50. So, you know, it was okay, and we had the right winner. We had the Chiefs winning it. They made us very nervous. Last year, Super Bowl 55, we had Chiefs losing to the Bucs before the season began, but we had a few hedge bets too, so it wasn't just one clean one. The year of Rams and Rams and Patriots, we had that right before the season began. At the end of the season, it is true that I said put in a hedge bet with Patriots and Saints as well, just in case. To me, though, that's not bad. That's just being smart. Sure, ultimately you lost that money on your hedge bet, but you still hit on the big bet before the season, and you guarded yourself just in case you were wrong about that. The point is to come out ahead. This year we had Gonzaga having a perfect season and beating and winning the championship this year. Well, they almost had a perfect season. They came up one game short, but we saw that Baylor had a great riddle to win, and Baylor was a great payout because they were big underdogs. I told my whole community, you got to hedge with Baylor tonight. I said, especially if all your eggs are in the Gonzaga basket, you have to hedge. I said, Baylor has a great riddle. They can win the 28th win of the season. That's the perfect number. It would break up Gonzaga's perfect season, and then Indiana would be like the winner because it was in Indiana. Remember, you guys, come on. They canceled the Gonzaga-Baylor game that was at a neutral site in Indiana due to COVID. It ends up being the championship. See how all this stuff is bullshit, you guys? They disrupt the season schedule for a planned COVID disruption for their rigged championship. And Baylor University, notice in the most pure cipher, it's 82. They just won the 82nd tournament, right? And Baylor in the most simple cipher, 73. That's the 21st prime. They won it in 2021. But they hadn't been in a championship for 73 years, right? And you see how Baylor's 28? Look at Gonzaga, who they beat. Gonzaga's 28 when you run it in reverse. And Baylor got their 28th win of the season. There's only, out of the first 500 numbers, there's only 3 perfect numbers. 6, 28, and 496. And then the next perfect number is some really huge number. Like, I can't even think what it is right now. 4,000 and something. And then it's an even way bigger number. The point is there's hardly any perfect numbers. But Baylor got their 28th win, a perfect number, to break up the perfect season. Remember, all this stuff's biblical, too. Baylor's a Christian-related school, so is Gonzaga. Notice the word man in the most simple cipher is 28. Man's made on the 6th day. 6 is a perfect number. 28 is a perfect number. Numbers, letters. The belief that God created the world with numbers and letters. Again, that comes from Kabbalah. These occult secret societies are into. But okay. So, first ever, sort of go. I mean, again, if you guys understood the situation, a day of, working in the grow, spare time, know something funny in football, biggest ritual you'd seen so far, paying attention to Gematria. Could there be something with those teams? Throwing that out there while doing your work in a weed grow, while after probably taking a nice big toke. Again, if you want to hold that against me, you could say that was the first ever football pick. But, I mean, I wasn't serious about that one. When I came through with my first ever real football pick, Panthers and Broncos synced up with all the race war symbolism in the news, with Von Miller, the MVP, and everything else that landed, that was a real pick. And that's why USA Today wrote an article, and that was a killer pick that won a lot of people a lot of money. Free knowledge put out there. Comeback Super Bowl 51. If you took me for the Falcons and Packers and Giants and covered in the NFC, you did well to start the season. And everyone will accuse me of the Vikings that year. Again, you guys remember that was the guy who was making the videos attacking me saying I was wrong because I didn't have the Vikings. And I pointed out that Vikings did have a connection to 44, so it made them a little bit interesting, but it wasn't in the most pure cipher. So, anyway, everyone misremembers that. It was the guy constantly attacking about how the Super Bowl was going to be Vikings and Colts. And then you guys all say that was my pick. That was not my pick. I started with Packers, Falcons in the NFC through 44. And the NFC Championship was those teams won by the Falcons with 44 points. But then maybe the Giants because of the death. And then, all of his noise, I kept acknowledging. I say, he might have a point with the Vikings. I said, they do actually have this 44, it turns out, when you use it this way. But yeah, everyone will always say that was my pick. And it's like, no, that was not. That was never the starting pick. Never, ever. That was the guy who was talking all the noise. Who's wrong every year. But, yeah, 50. And then again, I saw that the Patriots had a good shot early in the season, and I did warn people. But, 52 helped people win a fortune. That's probably the most money we ever made on a football season because there were just so many upsets with the Eagles. Eagles were like a dog every week in the playoffs. And, again, that's the beauty of understanding the narrative and writing it through. And this year I clearly didn't understand the NBA narrative unless they did switch it up. I mean, it's not out of the question that they could have changed the narrative. A lot of people do get this work, man. Last year, a lot of online sports books didn't pay out on the Lakers. We helped a lot of people make money on the Lakers last year before the odds went down before Anthony Davis was there. People were in on it because we knew Lakers getting 17 in LeBron's 17th season. But, okay, so we've done really well in football overall. We've done really well in baseball. NBA, okay, for first year we missed all these calls early in the season, year after year, very specific calls, dominating. The 1 year that I thought the Warriors were going to win it in Steph Curry's 73rd season because he's born on the 73rd year, I said all he needs is, to be like the MVP and the storyline by himself. That year, though, Arthur did a good job, and he caught that Toronto looked like the team in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I looked at what he was saying with Drake and Drake's album and Kawhi, and I was like, man, that looks like a ritual right there. I didn't realize all that. And I told my people, you better hedge with Toronto at the end. Because I thought it was going to be the Warriors and Steph Curry, the guy born on the 73rd day of the year in his 73rd season. Playing against Raptors made sense against his dad's old team. And and again, just a lot of these years we had LeBron. I mean, just every year that we had at least one or two teams. We had those Cavs Warriors series we killed. The Warriors ended up playing, when that finally broke, the Warriors and the Raptors ended up happening. And that was probably the worst work I did overall for a season until this year, but it still wasn't bad. And then, the year after that was last year, the Lakers winning, which we called that 2 years in advance, why they were going to win that season for specific reasons. And this year, man, I thought I dialed it in with the repeat of the 56th NBA season with all the 56 stuff. But again, realize, even though this is our worst year, you could have won a lot of money with Phoenix this year. Phoenix has exceeded expectations. We said the Western Conference Finals would be LA and Phoenix. It's the other LA team in Phoenix, not far off. And our backup team was the Bucks with Brooklyn, because they're the teams that had the 56 connections. We know it's the 56 stuff. So it's not like we were just like astronomically missed. See, that's what you should be able to tell the difference. The clown I'm talking about who rode my coattails and takes credit for the Broncos-Panthers pick when really he copied me, this guy's not even really worth talking about, but he makes the worst picks, and they are a mile off, and then he comes out and says every time that the league flipped it because they got his information, it's like, dude, there was no way that the Super Bowl was going to be the Jaguars and the Broncos. No, that wasn't going to be the Super Bowl that year. It's just like in the time that we've just had these riddles dead on, he's been saying it was actually going to be this, but then he had that out. It's just like, dude, and he's trying to put down our work, and like people will share his video everywhere. He's like, Zach didn't call Patriots and Eagles. He called like 16 different teams. Everybody knows that's such a bullshit phrase. Everybody knows that we rode Patriots Eagles all year. We had Patriots in the Super Bowl before the season began. We were looking for the NFC team. We knew it was it when Donald Trump did the ritual with the flag and all the protests. It was all too perfect. And again, there was no, we were on the Patriots, and we were looking for the NFC team. We found the Eagles. Those were our only teams that year that we rode all year to big paydays all throughout the season. And then this clown wants to get on at the end of the year and say like, oh, he covered every team. It's just like, shut the fuck up, dude. No, what we did is we helped people make a fortune that season. That's what we did. So, again, the point I'm making is, we haven't even gotten through hardly any of the list. I mean, there's just so much more to go through. But the point is, if you're listening to what I'm saying, if when you make these bets, you just have a rule. You bet $10 each time. A lot of these bets were big multiplying payouts. And we've done it with horse races. We've done it with tennis matches, golf tournaments. The amount of payouts on what we've been right on is so much more than our hedge bets that some of them did come through, which is also helpful, but the ones that did not. You are netting out way ahead. The name of the game is to come out ahead. If you made a series of 10 bets, and on average they all paid 20 to 1, right? 20 to 1. So you laid down $100, right, on 10 different bets, and on average they all paid 20 to 1. We'll just say each of them paid 20 to 1. If you hit one of those bets, you make $200. So at the end of the night, you'd get that $200 back and your $10. So you're walking out of there with $210. You came in with $100. Let's just say all the other bets are wrong. You lost that, but you're still walking out with $210, and you made $100 for the night. Or you came in with $100. Now you left with $110 more, right? Now let's say that 3 of those came in. You won $200, $200, $200. You won $600. 7 of them did not come in. 7 just got swiped off the table. You're leaving with $630. You came in with $100. This is what the smart people in our community have consistently done. Big Al is very good at looking at, like, this is a smart pick, this is a good payout, I really like this narrative, and he lays down cards. Some nights he hits a bunch. Some nights he hits one. Some nights are a bummer, and he misses on all of them. He lost $100 for the day, but you know what? He's like, man, yesterday I won $1,500. Day before that, I won $800. Day before that, I won $300. I'm not that mad that I lost $100 a night. Comes back the next day, bam, he punched his biggest ticket of the week. He's like, man, I thought I couldn't do any better. I just won $2,500 a night. There's a lot of people in the community who've done that. You know, Johnny, veteran in the community, doesn't normally call in on the live streams. He'll call in on the Patreon. But again, he's just always texting night after night. He's like, look at what this came in. Look how this came in again. He's just been doing this for years now. There's people in this community that don't risk a lot but make really good payouts by being very smart and looking for where the riddles are with the potential huge payouts. Intelligence is everything. You know, I had people in my Patreon today telling me that they didn't bet on Jon Rahm yesterday, but they bet on the basketball. And again, this is a form of mind control. I told people basketball is trash right now. We'll keep looking at it. We're going to try to figure it out. But the Jon Rahm riddle was just boom, boom, so much excitement, so much great odds. Some people just aren't good at making good decisions. That's why if you give a man a tool, it's about the man in a big way. It's not the tool's fault if the job doesn't get done, unless the tool's really messed up. But, you know, you give some man the tool, he does a wonderful job. Some man, you know, he's not capable. You know, he can't make the cuts. He can't make the right decisions, you know. Yet yesterday, betting on the NBA, there wasn't really anything too enticing there. Jon Rahm was just like, check the box, patterns all year, huge payout. I mean, how do you not bet on that? Some guys bet $10 to win $5 on Philadelphia. They could have bet $10 on Jon Rahm on a rock-solid riddle to win $100. They would have rather have won $5 on a risky. I mean, it's like, how is that even possible? But understand, that's what, even in my own community, that's what some people did. It's just like, God, you can lead a horse to water, but man. I mean, you guys, money management, making smart decisions. Why lay a huge chunk of change on, you know, something that's likely going to come through, but a little bit risky? Look at how the guys who make the big stacks in this community, they don't risk a lot, but they make a lot. And they just keep building. Again, it's just some of you guys, I know you're just too hard-headed. You just want to lay down $10,000 every day, and then if you won $50,000, lay all that down the next day. And if you won all that, then lay all the next thing, you're betting $1 million, and you finally gave it all back to the casino. That is what casinos count on, that mentality. Greedy, just going to keep betting everything you won until finally you lose and it all goes back. The casino knows that that's how the average person operates. I try to tell you guys how to not be the average person. So, again, you guys want to keep talking shit? All you're showing me is there's some swine out there, which I already knew. I'm not worried about what any of you swine think. I'm not worried at all, you know? Chalk up 2 more big calls in big games. Djokovic, or Novak Djokovic, Jon Rahm, U.S. Open. Put them up on the chalkboard. Just add them to the list. We've killed the world of football, basketball, baseball. You know what? I do not like the hockey playoffs, but we've done very well in the hockey regular season when we've decoded it. We've murdered the world of hockey. NHL, yes, it is rigged all the same, and everybody should know that after last year. Tom Brady goes down to Tampa Bay, and then Tampa's in every championship. The Lightning, remember, we had the day that the Lightning were going to end the tournament dead on. They ended it 44 days after the Lightning burned up Tom Brady's hometown. Remember that last year? Lightning started burning up the Bay Area August 15th, the Jesuit birthday. 44 days later, Lightning 44, the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup. And then you had the Tampa Bay Rays in the 116th World Series. Tampa, Florida's 116. Tom Brady's full name's 116. Then you got Tampa winning the Super Bowl. First ever time team wins it in their home stadium. People are like, I'm not sure hockey's rigged, though. It's like, okay. I know you don't belong here. I know that you're riding the short bus if you don't think hockey's rigged. I mean, come on, man. Could it be any more obvious? All these sports are rigged. There was a game. I haven't heard from him in a while, probably because I haven't been doing hockey, but there's a guy. He's a lawyer in New York area, and he likes to bet big on hockey. And he made a whole bunch of money off hockey. And there was one night where, even though I didn't have the bet, I felt all the stress he must have felt because he let me know how much big of a bet he put down on the San Jose Sharks because he loved my Sharks riddle for that night. And I did too, man. I was big on the Sharks. And man, I want to go. I have to go back to the game. I want to say the Sharks were down about 4 goals. It was either 3 goals or 4 goals. It was an extreme amount of goals with hardly any time left in the game. And I can't even remember who the Sharks were playing. But all of a sudden, the other team gets a penalty, and then they get another penalty, and then all of a sudden, the Sharks have this huge man advantage with a little time in the game, down all these goals, and next thing you know, man, the Sharks are just putting goals through the net like nothing. Sharks come back and win the game. I think they were down 3-0. You know what? I think this is the way it happened. God, it was so messed. I remember now. The Sharks were down 3-0. Not only did they come back and tie it, they take the lead 4-3. And I think it's been so long since I decoded hockey. Let me look. Is San Jose 43? San Jose is 43. This is what it was. San Jose comes back and takes the lead, and then there's like no time left in the game. There's like face off and like 10 seconds left. Then they face it off, and the other team goes down and scores and ties it up 4-4 and sends it to overtime. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. What kind of game is this? And again, like literally, what kind of game is this? There's no time left in the game. You're down all these goals, and you're going to come back and win? This never happened in a hockey game the whole time I was growing up. It's just all these sports are so bullshit now. And the same time, this kind of thing's going on. You know, teams are giving up 9-inning leads in the 9th, and you're just like, what? Come on, man. Who gives up a 9-inning? There was a Rockies game where they were up 11 in the 9th, 10 or 11 in the 9th. And it pissed me off that day because I really liked the Rockies that day. This is years ago now. But I could not believe it. The Rockies lost the game. I was like, come on, man. Who gives up that kind of lead with 1 inning? You don't have people in your bullpen that they can throw the fucking ball without giving up 10 runs in an inning? I mean, it's just, all these games are such bullshit now. The Super Bowl 52, 25-point comeback on 2/5, when, again, we told the whole world it was going to be about the Patriots in 25 and why they were winning. But even without Gematria, how can you watch this and think this is real? How can you watch the Hawks beat the 76ers, a team of giants who are much better at every position than the Hawks? Embiid all day could score 50 points a game if he wanted to. Tobias Harris could play defense on Trae Young, and Trae Young would have 0 points each game, just as he did at the end of the game that they won in Atlanta. Again, I mean, just like, how can people watch this shit and not see that it's rigged? And then especially when I'm showing. And then to be such a fucking loser to come here and complain or talk shit. I mean, fuck you, loser. Fuck you, swine. Way too many fucking swine in this world. That's why I think, again, I mean, people say, oh, Zach, you're no better than them. But I got to be honest, man. The world elite that want to get rid of people, putting it in their TV shows and movies, etching it on the Georgia Guidestones, I think they're fucking right, man. Let's get on with the show. Why are we dragging our feet with it? Way too many deadweight fucking losers that don't need to breathe another breath. You can find them at sports stadiums every day, you know, cheering for these fucking rigged bullshit-ass games in stadiums paid for by taxpayers. It's just like the whole thing's a major fuck you. And look at how much they love to punk the home crowds. Look how they did it in the Philly-Atlanta series. Punk the Philly crowd game 5, right? Punk the Atlanta crowd game 6. Punk the Philly crowd game 7, right? Utah, you know, against the Clippers without Kawhi. Number 1 seed. Can't even get the job done on their home court, right? Just same stuff year after year. I've always said this. They love to shit on a home crowd. Again, it's because assholes rule the world, and they know they rule over dumb people, and they despise these dumb people, and this is like it's obvious. This is their game, just like laughing at the world as they take them to the bank every day. So they put up another winner who just writes about how his child just died days before. Coincidentally, you know? Oh, yeah, this Chase Briscoe thing, I forgot to point out it was 159 days after his birthday, and he drives a Ford Mustang 159 like Donald Trump 159. Remember that Nationals World Series that was synced up with Donald Trump 138 days after his birthday? That was Donald Trump's 138 and 159 when the Nationals won the World Series. It was 138 days after his birthday. That same night, Houston and Washington, D.C. played in the NBA, and the Rockets won. And D'Antoni got his career win that was the 115th prime, like it was the 115th World Series, but Houston won with 159 points. And if you look up the box score, look at this. Box score, Game 7, 115th World Series. It's mind-blowing how they do it, but the Nationals threw 159 pitches. Can't Can't remember what day it was. Let's see. We'll do it this way. 2019 World Series. Let's see. 2019. Okay. October 30th. It was the day before Halloween. October 30th, 2019 box score. Nationals and Astros. And somebody in the truth community needs to stop saying that they called this World Series because you can't even remember what teams were in it. You don't even know the name of the Astros. That person needs to stop, man. That person needs to stop. You did not call the Nationals Astros World Series. You are a member of my Patreon. I called the Nationals Astros World Series. That person's annoying me because they're talking shit about me and taking credit away from things I've done while taking credit for things that I've... Just like, that person needs to stop. You don't even know the name of the Houston Astros. You definitely didn't call them in the World Series. He's like, yeah, I forget how it was, but like there was a skull and bones thing. I was like, yeah, you forget how it was because you didn't call it. You watched me call it. Anyway, it's not about that, but I don't like liars. And let me see if this has the pitch count here. I just want you to see that there were 159 pitches. Here, ESPN will have it. ESPN, let's see. Here we go. 159 pitches. 159. And here, watch this. October 30th. This was our huge parlay for that day because the Nationals were big underdogs. We like the Rockets to get the win. And the Rockets had a crazy comeback at the end. But October 30th, 2019, Rockets-Wizards box score. Watch it. Here it is, 159 points. I mean, we broke it down the night it happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. But, yeah, Houston got to 3-1 on the season. That's right. Houston's 31. Houston loves its 31, man. Houston just loves its 31. So, But that's how scripted it is. And Dan Toney got the career win in this game that was the 115th prime number, the coach of the Rockets at the time. And this is the final game of the 115th World Series. Again, it just shows it's all perfectly scripted. These guys are living out the scripts. That doesn't mean that a game can't be tossed here and get it back on script over here, but they have to have their number counts for their number rituals for the big things like this dead on the money when those days hit. Nationals-Astros was clearly the script all season. You would have had me fooled before the end of September, man. I thought, again, it took us a while to track the team, but we tracked the team in the right way, in a big way, and they were a big payout even when we got it because Nationals were big dogs to even have a chance at the World Series, even at the end of the season. Because, again, we saw it before they even clinched a playoff spot. So, but yeah, you guys, I mean, you don't think this is all scripted and you think, you said it was going to be all about 56 and, your backup team's with the 50. Again, you guys don't have a leg to stand on, man. What I said the season was going to be about is what it's all about. Here, I'm going to show you something else. They in the last game that the Lakers won, remember the Lakers did that big number of the Beast Ritual going up 2-1 against the Suns? In that game was the game where they mentioned that Anthony Davis and LeBron missed 56 games in the regular season, right? Look at this. Lakers players, look at this article that was just written the other day. How much have I been talking about 201 in sports, you guys? Look at this article that they had to highlight this stat the other day, that the Lakers players missed 201 games during this past NBA season. Remember, LeBron was born 201 days after the 1984 NBA Finals concluded. 84, remember? The Jesuit order, 201 and 84. How many rituals we documented? Kershaw had the big 201 strikeout ritual in the World Series. This year, the Lakers missed 201 games. And it's all fake bullshit. I mean, LeBron's fake-ass injury, you mean to tell me it's a coincidence that he returned 41 days after his fake injury against the Kings, who he began his career against, as LeBron, King James, King 41, the 13th prime, like he won it with the Cavs in his 13th season. King James, a king at 13 months of age. I mean, no way. You're a dummy if you think all this shit's a coincidence. You're nothing but a dummy. Don't get mad at me, dummy. Look in the mirror. Slap yourself into shape, man. I'm not the problem. You are. You're the problem dummy if you think all this is a coincidence. LeBron. And if you don't think that's true, go look it up. Go look up the day LeBron had his fake-ass injury, and then look how 41 days later he came back against the Kings, and then tell me about it. I don't put out missed facts. I don't misstate shit. There's nothing I need to lie about. There's nothing. Again, if I was putting out false information like that, it would just discredit the whole work. It would discredit the whole work. That's why we just stick to the facts over here, okay? And we just show basic mathematics. A dummy would be like, oh, well, your Lakers pick was right last year and paid a ton, but it was wrong this year, so you're even. No, you must not be able to do math. I'm sorry, it paid 20-1. We made 20 times our money. I only bet 1/20th of that this year, so I gave 1/20th of it back. I'm still way up from understanding the ritual. Fuck you, moron, because you can't do math, and your opinion isn't worth jack shit, and all you know how to do is talk shit and bitch, and at the end of the day, all you're doing is saying a whole bunch of nothing. Again, how many dummies in this world are that way? Running their mouth a whole bunch, have no listening skills, know how to talk, know how to just yap all day. Just yap, 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 have no listening skills. This is America, isn't it? I know this is America because I live in it. Bunch of fucking morons that don't know how to listen to anything, want to talk all the time, can't acknowledge when they're wrong, too stupid to see the truth, too cowardly to see the truth, and just keep saying stupid shit to themselves like, you can't rig sports. It's like, do you have Netflix? Yeah. Go watch the Ken Burns baseball, how they talk about everything was rigged and scripted in the early days of baseball to generate excitement in the games and create narratives that people wanted to follow. You really think anything's different today? You think that model changed? Again, you got the quote from Spalding about how conspiracy was the word in the Ken Burns baseball. Watch it. Conspiracy was the word to explain the early days of baseball, the American sport that gave birth to all the other American sports. That's sort of true. Cricket was actually the first professional sport league in America, if you didn't know that. Cricket's similar to baseball. Cricket didn't last long, though, and then baseball came, and then baseball built sports as we know it in the U.S. Football behind it, basketball, never really hockey. Hockey's cool, but again, it's just... people don't appreciate hockey because... the same reason I don't appreciate hockey. I'm hardly around an ice rink, ice skates, all this stuff. It's just like a sport that people don't play, so they don't watch it as much either. But yeah, I mean, again, I got to get on here and explain. Just here, you want to talk shit about the Lakers? Okay, the Lakers, wrong about that, but here, just make sure you give us our points for 2 more big hits this year. We've had a lot of big hits this year, man. A lot of big hits last year, the year before that, the year before that. You know, we just keep having big hits. So, again, hater crowd. Again, I want you guys to realize in the hater crowd, you guys are all what's wrong with the earth. You are what is wrong with the earth. Period. End of discussion. I'm on here giving life-changing knowledge that should pull everyone out of the bullshit politics, the bullshit news, to see through their government, to see through the sports games they spend all their time on. I mean, we've connected all this stuff so many times in such perfect ways. And again, realize part of the thing, here, I'll tell you mistakes that I feel like I made with LeBron and the Lakers. The Lakers are at 17 championships. And I said long ago, I'm not sure you're going to see any team ever surpass 17 championships. The Celtics were at 17, now the Lakers. MLB 27, the Yankees lead with 27. But I was aware of this. This was my warning when the Lakers played Phoenix, because that was the first sign that something was wrong. I had Lakers and Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals, not the first round of the playoffs, but I saw that they were going to meet. And once it happened, I was like, well, I guess it could still happen. But what I warned people about is I said, 46 is a big thing right now. And that's part of the reason we had LeBron getting to 4-6 last year in the finals, because he's 4-6 in the time of the 46th president and all those 46 rituals. But notice who stopped him at 4-6 in the finals. Phoenix, which is 46, right? And by the way, yesterday the Suns, you guys, became 9-3 on Sundays this season. Like the sun 93 million miles away, like how they just did those rituals against the Nuggets, the 93 team. Gold, Nuggets, and alchemy. Gold is the sun. But I should have thought more about the possibility of just that. LeBron staying parked at 4-6. He's King James. The King James Bible is known for Psalm 46, the Shakespeare tribute in it. The 46th word from the front is shake. There's like some extra thing at the end of Psalm 46 that, I don't know, people say is not a true word. But if you ignore that and then count back, spear is the 46th word from the back. So Shakespeare, and they say Francis Bacon edited the King James Bible, and some people think Francis Bacon is Shakespeare, and Francis Bacon had a lot to do with the colonizing of America. That was like his vision. And the queen, who he was friends with, supported that and paid for the first expedition to start the early colonization. So there's actually a lot with, all this history that most of us don't know as Americans, and even I could know a lot better. But there's a reason with all this stuff, and people believing so much in their King James Bible. And don't forget, that's 56 in the most pure cipher, So, and that was part of why I thought LeBron was getting to 5 and 6 this year, man. Come on. I'll always wonder if somehow they flip the script, but he can still get to 5 and 6 and 6 and 6, but then they'd have to break that 17 barrier. Because remember, Lakers in the most simple cipher 16, so was LeBron, so was LeBron James. The year he won his first finals, there were 66 games in the NBA. They always do the number of the beast rituals with LeBron, which I've mentioned so many times. I even have that in my first book. But remember, LeBron, his name's 66, like number of the beast. This year, he got his 174th postseason win, and then he didn't win anymore. He got his 174th, and in that game, the Lakers came into that game 24-8 at home against the Suns all time, and they improved to 25-8. Like number of the beast is 258. LeBron's 174th game. LeBron James with the 66 connection, also the 87 connection because James is 87. And you think King James, James Bible, number of the beast, ritual, riddles. And again, one of the things that's always going to make me think that it is possible that they did change this script is because, remember, this year Brady won Super Bowl 55 188 days after his 43rd birthday. Greatest of all times, 188. GOAT's 43. Gave that one to you guys for free. All you haters who are... See, that's what I mean, the people who'd come here and troll, I helped you make money on the Super Bowl for free and other things. I gave you the tip about Djokovic at the beginning of the year, and you guys are getting mad. I'm giving you guys winners. Obviously, the Lakers didn't end up being a winner this year, but again, everybody, I gave you the Lakers for free. I gave you guys all the Lakers for free last year, and you could have got big odds on it. So that's why, you just got to be some kind of sorry-ass, worthless motherfucker to come here and talk shit. You got to be the kind of worthless little bitch that the World Elite just want to get rid of. Because I feel like the World Elite probably look at humanity the same way. They got this giveaway system, all this free shit, all this free money, free all this shit. And then they're like, these people are still ungrateful. Not that you should be grateful to your government's evil, but... No, I'm not even going to make that comparison, but still, I give it, again, for the person complaining about this year's Lakers pick, you're a real bitch, man. I helped you win them a lot of money last year, and if you played smart like I tell you, you should still be up ahead. You shouldn't be coming here bitching like some sorry-ass motherfucker, And yeah, I am going to keep saying it this way in all these different ways because I want you to know what I think about you. I am so sick of living in a world of sorry-ass motherfuckers. What do you think drove me to work this hard in 2013? Living in a world of sorry-ass fucking people having the vision of where we're going as a society, straight to the cliff, which had been very clear since 9/11/2001. You had to be fucking retarded to not see it then. So to see all this time and watch all these sorry-ass motherfuckers keep ignoring the truth, keep hating on the truth, keep talking shit, it's just get rid of these fucking people, man. These people don't have any purpose other than to be the minions of hell, man. And, but yeah, the point I'm making about LeBron is had LeBron won the finals this year, he would have had his 188th postseason win. And that looked really good going in. So, and I really liked how they punched the ticket for the 43rd win in the play-in game to go into the postseason. I was like, okay, Brady at 43, LeBron can get the 188 wins. These are things we were looking at. So, and they synced up LeBron and Brady plenty of times. And, you look at the narratives that they got going on right now. They're kind of interesting, but nothing was as good as this Lakers-Nets, Kevin Durant, the rematch. And here, I'll tell you something they did. When Kevin hit the game tire that sent it to overtime here in Game 7? If you have that game recorded, go back and watch. You'll see this is all facts. They do this all the time. I forget what the clock was at. It was at 5 point something. But then all of a sudden they bump it to 6.1. And then the camera goes right to Kevin Durant. And I said to Sweet Lady, I said, okay, ball's going to go to him, of course, and he's going to knock down a shot here. I said, I don't know if we're going to overtime or it's a game winner, but Kevin Durant going to knock down a shot. So it's sitting on 6.1, but then they bring it back down. Then they bring it to 6.0. And Sweet Lady goes, well, now that they changed it, I said, yeah, it's kind of interesting they changed it, but still, they did that. They had it 6.1, and they showed Kevin Durant. And sure enough, he comes in and he knocks down the game tire, foot on the line. And again, they do shit like this all the time, you guys. But part of the reason I also liked the Nets to be in the finals is the finals began 283 days after Kevin Durant's birthday, that's the 61st prime number. And finals is 61. And usually when things line up like that, man, usually we're not off the mark. So, I mean, we'll never know. To me, I feel like it would be too arrogant to say that we caused them to rescript it, but a part of me is always going to wonder. Remember, there were online books last year that didn't pay out on the Lakers. When's that ever happened? We had a lot of people on the Lakers, and we don't know how many people really follow this channel because all of the stats are dwarfed. And it's hard to... I know the censorship's way more there, but if you guys were here back in 2016, like, my videos used to get hundreds of thousands of views back then. So why is it that now they get, like, 10,000 views, or maybe they get 20 if they do really well now? It's like, how's that even possible? How can I get hundreds of thousands of views back in the day when I didn't even have as established of a record? And now in the internet age, somehow I only get 10,000. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, but I don't know. It's what it shows. So, all right, you guys. I'm done ranting. And again, congrats to everybody who won on Jon Rahm. I always love when Big Al's a winner. The vets. And again, if you're someone that decided to fade this narrative, again, I'd encourage you guys to stop gambling and get the free copy of my book and read it and learn what numbers are in here, because the numbers I wrote about in this book just keep showing up everywhere in the news and in sports. And you really shouldn't have faded it, because I made the same point to you over and over on the Patreon. And I was just disappointed to hear how many people today ignored the Jon Rahm riddle and continued to gamble on the basketball, which we're not doing well with. And I just thought, that just shows, man, even people in my own community are still under some kind of mind control. It's like they're gambling on the NBA because that's what their friends and family are more into. And it's like, what kind of decision is that to make? I thought the point of this was to make money, not to take the riskier bet and try to prove a point that hardly pays anything. Like, what? And by the way, had you said to your family, like, Jon Rahm, my family's not into golf, though. Maybe they'd get more into golf if you just showed them that you brought home the big payday, like Big Al and others did. I mean, there were plenty of people that won on it, but today I was just surveying, I was like, you play golf yesterday? I decided not to. I went with the NBA. I'm just like, what? Okay, I don't know if I need to keep doing this for this community. If I'm leading you guys to the water and you won't drink it, I mean, what's the point? After we just murdered the Masters, you were doubting this Father's Day riddle? I don't know, man. I don't know. So anyway, we'll leave it there, you guys, and see if YouTube has the balls to keep up the video. Sure, just from saying certain words, gave them a chance to use their medical misinformation. And anyway, we'll leave it there, you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Till next time.